but it is one technique.
So let me tell you a phrase I have for something like that. When I'm racing like this and when I'm in those moments, the phrase I'm always thinking is a sense of urgency, a sense of urgency. Mm-hmm. And a sense of urgency doesn't mean that you have to be at your full-on race pace. It just means you always need to be mindful of exactly what's going on around you. You can't just be lackadaisical and take a break. So you can slow down and not be in a race pace, but you always got to have that sense of urgency, always moving forward, always moving forward, always moving forward. But on those particular obstacles, the slack line, they call the balance beam even. I mean, it's one of those things that you just don't see and it gets into your brain. And
absolutely.
It's a small, stupid thing. And the next thing you know, you're doing burpees and you're like,
it's like you're concentrating.
You're like, I can run
that's just,
I can run 18 miles and do 50 obstacles.
Here we go.
And
okay, here we go.
This is the other method.
Very easy.
Look at that.
Yeah, you don't.
What were you saying about
that's such a risky,
quickly?
Yeah,
Albert Soleil runs over the balance beam and he's about 20. I calculated about 26 seconds.
So right there is 5 or 6 seconds faster than what Albin did it. And listen, I tried that move in Italy this year.
Bombed it.
Yeah,
look, he's made up about 11, 12 seconds already, Olivier. So, you know, that completion of that balance obstacle is only adding to his gain. His cadence looks pretty good. He looks strong. He's chasing down Albin early.
Absolutely, and this is what we want to see. We want to see Albert coming back on John and to put pressure on him.
The tractor pull. This got uglier as the day went on.
Look, we have few information about timing, by the way. Richard Heineck was passing the first timing mat after 9 minutes, 6 seconds, and Albert was just behind after 5 seconds behind him, 9 minutes, 11 seconds with Thomas Verdich. Sergei Pereligin was 5 seconds behind Albert, so they are really together.
Do we have Albert on there?
I don't have the time of John, unfortunately, but
got it.
That's like even more.
Okay. Well, okay. So what that tells us is that Richard Heineck's actually moving at slightly faster speed than Albert right now. So the way I calculate that is Albert's chasing down Albin, and he's made up 12 seconds, and quickly coming up behind Albert is Richard Heineck.
And this is another piece I liked about this course is we did have moments like this where we could open up. When you're not such technical terrain. So for those of us that are better runners than average, these are the points, excuse me, where I would just start hammering. And I can pull a lot of people back in these run sections where I tend to be a little bit more conservative in the obstacles because there's so much risk. On the run, I throw risk out the window and just start hammering. So it's great to be able to have segments like this where you can actually open up on a hard-packed trail and hammer.
Do you think that John Albin is going to be a little bit careful? Sorry, I'll talk about that in a minute. Just tell us that data you're about to tell us there, Olivier, on the ladies.
Yeah, Nicole and Yonka on the same.
Do you think that John Albin is going to be a little bit 9 minutes and 26 seconds, basically, Nicole and Yonka? What I was going to ask you, Kevin, is after Nicole and Yonka on the same,
do you think that
there you
go,
is going to be 9 minutes and 26 seconds? ND's not detected as such. There's a little technical issue with John and Albert there on John. Basically, Kevin, I want to know, John Albert took that spill yesterday, okay, cut up his hand, cut up his knee. Is he going to be holding back on the downhill today, or is he saying, no way, I'm going for it?
Speaking from personal experience, I got really banged up at a race a couple weeks ago where my hands, I lost all the calluses on my hands, which has never happened. I worried about it, fretted about it all night long, taking all kinds of steps. What do I do? What do I do? The moment the gun went off, all of that just went away. So the point is, if you're a good athlete and you're aware of your capabilities, you know what you're capable of, generally those people can push that stuff aside. And in no joke, he may not even be aware of any of that at this moment. It may not feel any of the nuances from that fall. He may not feel any of the throbbing or the discomfort. It just goes away. So I don't think that stuff like that. I mean, I took a good fall. I showed you the bruise on my hip yesterday, banged right into a rock. I don't expect it to, I mean, it hurt. I slept on it last night. I could feel it. I think when the gun goes off, I don't even, it's just
that adrenaline's pumping.
Yeah, just, you know, speaking of which, let me give racers a piece of advice that I've come to live by. If you have one of those falls, the absolutely best thing you can do for yourself is get up and keep going. Do not stand there and try to assess how hurt you are or what level of damage you're in. Because when you do that, it seeps into your brain. And when you do that, you start to siphon up. If you really cannot continue and you are really that damaged, you will know in the next 20 meters.
Right. Olivier, we saw the start line just there, the rest of the group, the rest of the elite group ready to take off. This is,
and that's a mass start.
That's a mass start now. And this is Susanna on the tractor pull. You can see the tractor pull going right through the small creeks.
And now it's all rutted, and now
yeah.
it's got whoop-de-doos in it. Whereas when we first first hit it on the first race, it was mostly rocks. Now the rocks have been pushed aside. They're literally tractor whoop-de-doos and pits. And so in a way,
I haven't heard that one before, Cameron.
What's that?
Whoop-de-doo.
You ever heard whoop-de-doo?
No.
That's for motocross racing.
Is it? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or BMX. So on the whoop-de-doos, now in a way, you could almost argue it's a little bit easier right now because rocks have been pushed aside, mud has been exposed and comes to the top. That means that tractor pull can slide across that mud easier.
Right.
Whereas yesterday at the beginning, we're all pulling through rocks. So you're just knocking rocks out of the way.
Thanks for clearing the course.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everybody did that. The pros did it for us for a certain extent. Then we did it for the opens, and then the opens did it, and then it cycled again when we did the sprint. So today it should be a little bit cleaner in that area.
That makes me think about the winter races. I don't know if you have done winter races.
Sure.
But if you have like really fresh snow for the first heats, and for the elite, that's super difficult, because you have like 30 centimeters
You're
of
breaking
snow.
trail and post
for the open, then it's more easy. And when you do that on 2 days between the super and the sprint, sometimes you have like huge time difference because the pass is clean.
It's all compacted. That snow's compacted down.
Called breaking trail.
Completely different conditions, race conditions.
And look at here. Look, we got nobody in the background.
John Albin, you're seeing on screen now, looks very relaxed.
Ebrotas River, as we said yesterday, this is where the young Spartans were getting their agoge.
This is the over more than 10 years, Olivier. The young men of Sparta would train along the banks of this river. Very, very brutal training in ancient Greece, and it's a great honor that we're here now for the Spartan
tire flip
World
for the
Championship.
Americans. It's 3 out and 3 back, and I can assure you, this is not a Yokohama 400-pound tire.
So it's a little bit easier.
It's easier, but the way they make up for it is 3 and 3.
Yep. So there's 3 flips. Not a problem. John's
not
fine.
A problem.
Now we're onto the beast course proper. Now this is uncharted territory for John.
No, we were on this yesterday. We did this yesterday. We did the tire flip yesterday. One of them on the super, we did the tire flip.
You're right. My bad.
I know I'm right.
But that would be interesting for John. Maybe on some obstacles where you need a little bit of time to do them. He will check if Albert is coming back on him or not. So he will for sure, like on the carries. If you have a long carries when you go back and forth, he will have the time to see where Albert is behind him.
Yeah.
So he will have some points.
Because they're not getting any information about who's who, where's where.
Absolutely not.
And and in these areas, this is the way to do it. This is exactly the way I did it.
Yeah. What do you call that? Alligator crawling?
Yeah, it's like there are people that were trying to crawl through the barbed wire, which is in rushing, moving water, and the water is in your favor. It's actually taking you downstream. And there's people that were trying to do, like your typical barbed wire call.
That's good to know because next year we'll have to do it.
Reverse. No.
Very, very efficient technique. It's super easy. You're just floating along. You're grabbing a rock. You're grabbing a piece of grass or something under the water and pulling through.
I didn't even use my feet on any of that. I just pulled because the current will pull you along, and all you have to do is negotiate your belly and your stomach from getting hit by rocks.
There's Albert Soleil now on the tire flip. It's 3 flips out and 3 flips back. He has no problem. He's going to exit that obstacle and move towards the barbed wire crawl. He's tracking about 25 seconds behind John right now.
So they're on the same path approximately.
Yeah, they're staying on the same path. What I was trying to say before, and I got a bit muddle-headed. You have to bear with me, folks. I've actually not slept. We've had the hurricane heat 3X going all night, so I probably need a little coffee or something, but it's all good. The action's keeping me awake. Oh, yeah, yeah, I seem a little wound up, right?
So tell us more about the
what
happened.
Well, exactly. I'm going to we're going to get a couple of guests to talk about it, but we'll do that in about 15 minutes. Here's the alligator crawl or whatever.
Yeah,
I like that phrase. I'm not sure whether there is a phrase out there for it, but that's sort of
it's official.
It's official.
It's the alligator crawl.
Right. I'm gonna say I made that up.
You did make it up.
Yeah.
I didn't say it, but
you put that on the next product SOP, no?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Listen, once you just claim it, put it in paper, and act like it's been there. It's been there. It's the alligator crawl.
Anyone watching
Designed by Gilotti.
Yeah, well, no, I'm gonna say I designed it. He just does it.
You designed it and you named it, but I actually did it.
Right,
I just trademark.
I just sit at a desk and talk about it. But yeah, there's Albert Soleil making his way through the river trails. I always find this kind of running slow. I mean, while it's flat, it's a little tiring because of the sort of mental concentration it takes to not roll an ankle or sort of trip over a tuft of grass.
I don't know. My feeling on that is, although you are watching your foot placement, it becomes very second nature. You don't spend a lot of energy or time necessarily looking down. You spend a lot of time scanning what you're doing, but you're not necessarily looking down. So I don't think it's as much effort as some might think when you're a good runner and you have years of, say, trail racing under your belt. It's not as difficult as you think because it's a constant scan more than it is looking down. And you just become naturally, and I've talked about this on social media and other places, you start to become very adept at foot placement. Now, it doesn't mean you don't get it right all the time. You can step in a hole. You can step on a rock that shifts under your foot. It can happen. But for the most,
it does happen.
It does happen. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, this is interesting. There's just a walk going on here through the slightly deeper waters. Susanna's it's a little slippery, so she's just taking her time. With that technique that we're talking about, of course, so as you scan the trail, for all the trail running fans out there, you always want to be scanning sort of maybe 3 or 4 meters ahead of you, and then as you cross that patch, you're already scanning the next 4 meters ahead, and it's sort of committed to your memory and your mind.
Not only that, if you're paying attention to your fellow racers or ahead of you, you can see mistakes that they made that you need to avoid, but you can also see smart moves they made that you want to mimic. So you may see some person come up to a rock and you can see him be like, oh, to avoid that rock. Or you see the next person who has such a clean line and you take the exact same line that they do because you saw it was already a successful line. So there's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel and try to figure your own line. That guy proved the line for you.
Yeah, that's why trail running is such a great sport in the summer. You know, if you're a skier or a snowboarder and you love that in the winter, trail running's great because you're still picking lines and it's the same sort of skill set.
Look, you stay on the hard pack and you'll notice in situations like that, look at the center. See, since this is a fire road with vehicle treads, although he's being smart, he's taking the inside line, so he's taking the tangents, which is a good racer is always going to take the inside line. But if notice this, he's taking every inside line, but he's also staying on the hard pack of where the truck tires and vehicle tires have been and where most of the people have ran.
Yeah.
Why run in the middle on the loose material when you can take those inside lines? And they're just time savings. I mean,
John Elwyn makes it look so easy, doesn't he, folks? But the point is, he's moving at a very fast pace.
Well, people don't understand, like, if you're used to coming from road racing, which is part of my background, you're used to looking at guys running 5-minute miles, which is, you can tell on TV how wickedly fast this is. Yeah. So you can say to yourself, this doesn't look that fast. I could probably run that.
He's running a 5-minute
Let me tell you something.
4-minute 40K.
You're probably looking more at like a 7.5-minute mile, which to a road racer you would scoff because that's like, come on, man. But in this world, that's a wicked fast time. Let me give you an example. One of the best Americans that finished in our age group yesterday got beat by 30 minutes by Jonathan Albon. Mm-hmm. So that's and the guy I'm talking about, Ireland, he is fast. Yeah. And he got beat by 30 minutes. Yeah. So this stride that you think looks so slow, I can assure you people, it's wickedly fast.
That's some serious separation.
Okay, John Albon coming to the Olympus now.
Yeah, this is the obstacle.
5 kilometers, obstacles number 14. So let's put some
look. He's
some
not even
timing.
He can't even use his feet. I told you, because it's so slick. It's almost pointless. He only used the climbing holds. He didn't even bother with the chain, because you can't put your feet up onto that and push off on that wall. It's like glass.
Okay, let's try to see the time difference with Albert as soon as we will see Albert passing the Olympus. And
look, he's checking his watch, so he's paying attention to something. I don't know if he's got a GPS watch.
$1 million. I think he's looking down at St.
I'm an hour closer to $1 million.
Exactly.
We have a new voice with us this morning. Thank you, Joe, for coming.
No problem. David
for
had
joining us.
David had to go to the bathroom, so he invited me on the set.
Look at this view.
How did you like the stagger time this morning?
I loved everything. I love that. I wonder, I don't know if you guys have covered this already. I wonder if that leader, male or female, doesn't have somebody to push them now.
Dude, I had I talked about that whole conversation. Okay. You have to be a special kind of person, a special kind of racer to be able to just walk up to that start line with nobody else around, say go, and perform instantly on the spot, because a lot of people can't do that. They need that group with them to propel them forward. So it's an interesting dynamic to be out there and say, can I do this? Because I know for a fact some can't. They need that group. So can you go right off the bat and start getting into race mode?
With no information, it's like a time trial on the Tour de France, you know?
It really is. Well, I mean, humans have shown up. Like, if you go to the gym in the morning and you work out at one level. Somebody shows up, you automatically work out another level.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter who you are.
And they're not getting any feedback. So, but see, this is the beauty of being an elite top racer is you got to have this piece of the game in your pocket to be able to play in case we do starts like this, which are awesome to do, because a lot of people don't know how to react when it's just this.
Do you know the other thing that the viewer can't see was the drama at the start line waiting to go.
It's 10.
This was my question for you, Joe. I wanted to know, what were you talking to John Albon about? You were both laughing at the start line. Then you got the spear out.
There were a few things we were talking about. Every time we see each other, we're talking about this elusive $1 million.
He's telling you to get your checkbook out.
No, he's actually not. He's a pretty humble guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's pretty awesome to be around that way. But I did bring in an ancient flute player who had a 2,000-year-old Spartan flute taken from the museum in France, because I was told that Albon hates high pitches. And I thought if I could have this flute player play for a few minutes before the start, you don't know what
get in his
head, that maybe I could crack him, but it didn't seem to affect him.
So, hey, listen. Just like I said this earlier, the stink eye is part of the game, man. Yeah. If you can get somebody psychological, one of the tricks like that I use on people, I'm going to give it away, but I'll give a competitor sometimes a little nudge.
Right.
Like, just let you know I'm there. I'm not doing anything to you, but I'm here.
Right.
Suddenly, the next thing you know, they're focusing on you, and I'm focusing on the race.
Right.
You said that you only gave him the stink eye. You said there was no physical contact. I'll be watching you, Kevin. I'm telling the refs.
A nudge is not. Have you ever watched track racing? These guys are elbowing each other left and right all the way inside the turns. That's just the name of the game. I'm saying I'm not punching anybody.
Kevin's a master manipulator when it comes to sport. He told me last night that he took a step backwards from the elites so that he can go into age group, so he could be the number one age group. Number one age group globally.
48 years old.
First year. Look at the goal. He's creating eternity here.
I owned that for like 11 days. Earlier in the season, I even have a screenshot of it. Number one ranked at 48 years old. Look at
the views. You see the views of the mountains. I mean, where we're sitting, the viewer can't see it. Where we're sitting around the track, you look out and see these mountains at 4,500 meters high. It's incredible.
To John Albon's right there is the mountain range that you're talking about there, Joe. And as the winter, there you go, as we see them appear in the background, and as the winter comes in, all that gets the snow-capped peaks on top of it. It's just a spectacular view.
It really is spectacular.
Dude, he's got a motorbike behind him. That person's on a like a moped.
Yeah, at the moment they're on the quad, yes, but that's the small part of the race. Otherwise, they're just running.
It's kind of hard to keep up with John Albon, Kevin.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. Why that's of interest to me, because I have been in races where that's been going on, and it can be distracting.
Oh, that's why we did it.
The motor, the sound. Oh, look, they just ditched the motorcycle. He just ditched the motorcycle, and the guy got off and started running and following him.
Now he's running.
Yeah.
Now the guy's actually running. He jumped off the back of the motorcycle. He's like, I'm out of here.
Do we have any clue as to where second place is, if they're making time or not at this point?
Yeah, the first timing information we have.
All right, guys, I'm going to go race.
Albert Soler was coming back a little bit on John, but just a few seconds. So we just need to wait for them to pass the next time.
You sit here and talk about people racing. Yeah. I'm actually going to go race.
Yeah, good luck with that. I hope it works out for you.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
Right, guys, thanks.
Kevin, thank you.
Kevin Gelotti.
As always.
It's always wild with Kevin Gelotti on board. It's an exciting situation we've got here. Very, very little time between the top three men. There's John Albon on screen. He's actually picking up the pace a little bit as he's heading towards the split off of the Beast course, which is around the 8.6 kilometer mark, Joe.
You know, he's an ultra runner. I mean, sky running is right up his alley. So this is nothing for him. I'm actually annoyed that the course is so clean. With him, nice here, Olivia. You couldn't throw 30 or 40 obstacles in front of
him. He's got 46.
And I heard the carry was not that heavy. That is his kryptonite. Are you working with him?
No, basically, I think we'll have a look at a stone carry, which is quite heavy later. And of course, on the business.
It's an interesting technique.
Yes, it is. And the reason she's doing that is she mentioned to us yesterday that she felt the board was quite slick. So she's elected to go for just a hanging technique because by putting her feet up on the board, she felt that she was risking failing the obstacle. It's a little bit
bold.
It's a little bit bold. It puts my heart in my mouth because yesterday I actually thought she was going to fail the obstacle. She's got about a meter to go now before she taps that bell. Is she going to make this? She's going to take. Switch at the handhold. Oh, she's fine. She really likes to put the suspense on this.
I think she likes the drama. She did tell me that her plan is to do some TV work in the future. So maybe that's what that's all about.
Understood.
Susanna, you got to hand it to her, right? I mean, Dancing with the Stars most days, and now she just goes out there and crushes it and wins these things wherever she shows up. I mean, she told me she was going to take the year off.
the year off, and then I remember at Tahoe after the elite women's world championship and before taking on the team world championship, she said she was going to recover by going and running up the mountain again. So I think it's sort of in her DNA.
Yes.
I think we are just passing the point where John just fell yesterday. That was here in this curve.
You're exactly right. That's where John took the spill. And Joe, when he came and spoke to us on air, his knee was really banged up. It was swollen. He'd lost a lot of skin. On camera, he was literally bleeding and wiping the blood off. And we thought perhaps he wouldn't be able to complete the obstacles. But so far so good.
So John is on his way to the twister now. Obstacle 16 after six kilometers.
Look at that view.
Yeah.
Look at that view. For those of you that don't know it, right? Sparta's in the valley, and then the mountains just grow up on either side of this valley that you're looking at. And I guess the few inhabitants of either side of the mountain each say that our mountain is nicer.
Yeah, it's always the way, and it's in those mountains where the Spartans grew a very special tea. We'll talk about that in this. Oh no, we've just lost the shot on John. I'd like to say, there we go. I'd like to watch this. Now, John likes to use a swinging technique. You see the way he uses the momentum, and he faces forward. None of this going backwards that's become popular recently. And John just likes to use this swinging technique as opposed to a more rigid approach. No problem for him on the twister, and he's away back into his running rhythm.
I wish I could say I was happy.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I love the guy. I feel like partly a little bit of Stockholm syndrome here, right? Where you start to like your captor. I like the guy. I like the guy, but like
your financial captor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, John is going for the $1 million bonus purse. If he wins the Trifecta World Championship this weekend, he must then go on to win the Iceland Ultra World Championship by doing 100 miles and more. And then Joe will open up the checkbook and write the $1 million.
Trying to figure out how I'm going to explain it to my wife.
We get a lot of buskers,
exactly,
working all over the city. Yeah. There's Susanna on the log carry. That's no problem for her. She's just ducking under the low-lying branches there as she makes her way through the course. What I was going to ask you about, Joe, is we're talking about the mountains out there, and you were telling me the other day that you discovered a special kind of tea that's grown out there.
The Spartan tea. So basically, there's this tea that grows up in these mountains right where they're running. Right where they're running up here. And the higher you cultivate this tea, the higher elevation you cultivate the tea, the more nutrients it has in it. So I find out that for 2,800 years, they've been growing, picking, and brewing this tea, and that the Spartans would actually use the leaves after they brewed it and rubbed it on their bruises and their cuts. They would drink the tea. Hippocrates and Socrates drank it. So we've been bagging it up. And we're going to give it to our top customers. Yeah.
Unreal. Have you tried the tea, Olivier?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic.
I mean, you look a lot better since you started drinking the tea, I got to say.
I got to get me some of this tea.
Yeah. What's going on here?
Thank you, Joe.
We're looking at the Olympus.
She's not that far behind.
Yanka Pepova. She's maybe like two minutes away. So she's getting the same pass maybe than Susanna. It's important for her that she keep not losing time on her, maybe because we said that Yanka Pepova did not miss any obstacles during the full season. So she's very good at that.
She had an outstanding sprint race yesterday. Of course, she started 2 minutes and 28 seconds behind Susanna, and she's sitting just around about the same time frame. Here she is. You can see how slippery that board is. Yeah. She's managed to tap the bell and no problem. She's a very, very strong athlete. No problem on that obstacle at all. And there's Susanna, of course. Look at her running style. No problem. She loves the mountains, trains in cross-country skiing. Her biggest fear is that as the sun continues to rise and this place heats up, she's going to be struggling.
She doesn't like the heat.
We saw her struggling at the finish line yesterday.
She was at the finish line yesterday, and you were right there, Joe, and you saw she was sitting on the ground, covered in a pool of sweat, pouring bottles of water over her.
She had just come out of the river. I watched her do 30 burpees underwater, basically, and that river was cold. Yeah. So for her to be that hot just minutes later is a testament to she's a cold weather mammal.
Cold, yeah, exactly. And there were a few theories that she missed the spear throw on purpose just so she could dunk herself in that river, sailing the spear right over the top. Actually, it's going to be interesting to see, Olivier, how the spear throw pans out today, whether the athletes have had, spent the time overnight sort of thinking about how to compensate for the river, changing their footwork on the spear throw.
Yeah, that's one of the surprises. But there will be 2 spear throw on the beast today.
Yeah. And one of the spear throws, you're going to actually have to hold a shield, I'm told.
Absolutely. Like last year for the world. Last
really?
Year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to hold the shield like a Spartan.
I thought that was a technique that you asked for just for John.
No. They've added it. It's a 40-pound shield, Olivier?
Yeah, absolutely.
40-pound shield.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe the 1 foot rope on John's spear.
Exactly.
Figure out why I can't make it hit.
Look how smooth Susanna is.
Yanka Pepova here, live.
Oh, I thought that was Susanna. I apologize.
We had some great footage of Yanka yesterday, and she's changed her outfit today. Is she carrying a little bit of nutrition under her left arm there? She was in such good spirits yesterday, wasn't she?
Absolutely. She's a very, very nice person, always smiling and having a lot of fun in racing. The weather conditions today are fantastic, really perfect. Sky is blue.
Yep, just coming up to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
Trees. Those old olive trees that she's running by?
Sorry?
Olive trees she's running by? The olive trees?
Yeah. There's olive trees everywhere here.
Yeah.
Orange, olives.
Oh, who went down?
Oh, Albert Solé. We have Albert Solé now at the tire drag.
You can see Albert. He's trying everything he can to make up that 30, 40 seconds that he needs to catch up to John. He's moving with a lot of purpose. No problem over that sort of ground. You can see that dirt is very, very smooth and even. When sometimes if you're on an angle on the tire drags during a Spartan beast, it can be a little bit difficult, but no problem here. He's a very strong athlete and he'll be straight back into his running rhythm.
Any idea how far behind he is right now?
No, we have not information at the moment, but I think we should be able to give you this information in a few moments.
About 2 kilometers ago, I calculated he was at 26 seconds behind John Albert. Wow. So he made up about 11, 12 seconds once they reached the balance beam. And then he had a fantastic balance beam. He literally sprinted towards it over the top, over the other side. No problem.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing. I have to imagine the runner that starts 20, 30, 40 seconds behind has an advantage.
Something to chase.
Yeah.
The rabbit. Yeah. No doubt. And we were talking about that in the beginning with the sort of the mental challenge of a staggered start, that it puts you out on your own. You have to be in the zone immediately.
You got to create your own competition in your head.
Right. Exactly.
Somehow get to the red line without anybody there.
Yeah, it's really challenging, and it's the first time, folks, that you've seen this in Spartan, in this sport, and I love it. I love the format. I think it's really exciting.
Let's see what the athletes think when we talk to them later today.
Absolutely. Albert Soleil making his way up and into the mountains surrounding the village of Sparta. There's 1,000 meters of altitude of gain over this beast course.
Susanna in the descent where John Albon fall yesterday. So
yeah,
very technical.
She's not far behind, actually.
So you have to be careful.
She's not far behind John at all, and her footwork looks good. She's actually putting on the accelerator. She's not holding back anything right now. You can tell by the way her feet are moving. One thing I have to point out, and I mentioned this briefly yesterday, was that the awesome camera work that you're seeing, putting you right into the heart of the action. What you're seeing right now is what the best Spartan athletes in the world are seeing. And these guys that are out there with the cameras are not only doing what she's doing right now and running down there at fast pace, they're holding a camera as well.
It is amazing that the cameraman, anytime I think, I'm carrying a sandbag up this mountain, I turn around, there's a camera on me. They've got a big camera and they've got a backpack and everything else. So I think we should probably get a few cameramen out on the course racing.
Yeah, right.
And women.
They might take all the hardware. Yeah.
Look at the little plume of dust that she's creating. She's moving so fast.
I know. It's unreal. As she comes up to the twister, she was using a hand-over-hand technique yesterday, grabbing with both hands on each handle just to make sure that she doesn't slip off.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yesterday with the men, there were 3 or 4 the same at the twister, all using a different technique.
Now, folks, do you see what she did there? For your next Spartan event, if you're having trouble with the twister, she set the bar first, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can set the angle of the handles and before you take off. Of course, you can't walk out into the obstacle and start playing with it, but once you're standing on those hay bales or on the steps, you can adjust the obstacle. Across she comes. She's going to grab the middle truss structure.
She's gotten a lot better since Tahoe.
Yeah.
Now, it is still early in the day.
Sure. Yeah, there's plenty more obstacles coming, but you're right. She looks smooth.
Very smooth.
And the reason she spent a little bit of time on the middle there is because it's actually a resting position to grab that truss structure as opposed to the handles.
Absolutely.
Really, really nice technique. No problem for Susanna on that. Look at the background. Look at the distance. I mean, it's enough to motivate anyone to want to go running in this race.
Yeah, and now they are entering the beast loop. Let's say the super was coming back to the city yesterday, and now they are entering into all the hills and the fabulous landscape of Sparta.
We're coming up to about 9 kilometers, I think. There, Olivier, 8.2.
We want to get our little friend Billy over here.
It'd be great.
He could translate a little bit into Greek.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
We'd love to chat to you. We've got a very special guest here. A young man who participated on Friday in the kids event here at the Spartan Trifecta World Championship. He's a local boy who's grown up in this region. I'm going to give him the headset and he can chat to you guys, Olivia and Joe.
Yeah. Billy, what did you think of the course when we were out there the other day?
I think that was very easy for me.
Very easy for you because you're Spartan. Wouldn't be easy for Olivier, right? What was great about it?
It was great, and I'm very proud because I ran in a very short time.
What sport do you do?
What?
What is your sport? What is your sport?
My sport is football.
Okay.
And
that's why you're in good shape. I mean, you didn't complain. Yes. He had jeans on. He was out there. He was eating this course up.
Okay. You decide. When did you decide to do the race?
About 3 minutes before we started.
Okay. It was the last moment. You say, okay, I see that. You saw the race, and you say, I want to do it.
No, I had decided a lot of time before.
Okay.
He told me. He said, I am Spartan. I will get this done.
And what is the obstacle you prefer?
I prefer the obstacle with the.
Describe it. What did it look like?
The wall.
The wall. Yes.
Wall, like the wall.
The rock climb.
The road. No.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, let's see what's going on out there at the course, Billy.
Yeah, because we had around 350 kids from basically from Sparta yesterday. So I think this will grow and grow, and every year we'll try to.
We will have thousands of kids from Sparta and beyond.
What is your age? Okay, perfect. That's a good story.
Let's go back out into that orange field, see what's going on out there.
Okay, Geoffrey, if you can come back on the course to see where is John Albon, what's happening on the course with Susanna, with John. Albert Solé was second. Susanna is now on the tire drag.
Tell you what, she looks stronger than the elite male that we just saw.
I think the
tire is a little
bit lighter, but and we hear now that all the age group
elite athletes
are starting now, and today all the age group will leave age group by age group, so they will all battle together at the same time. The stagger start was only for the elite this morning for the first half an hour, 30 minutes.
Susanna takes off with a bunch of speed. Let's see what happens here.
And we should be able to give you more information about the timing in a few moments.
Billy, have you been out there? You know this area?
No.
You don't know this area, huh? You're not out tracking wolves at night.
No, it's very far from my home.
But you're speaking good English for your age.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay. David, come on back in when you get a chance.
How did you learn English? At school only? Or?
On
the hour. All right, who do we have here? We have Alvin.
Okay, John is back on the screen now. We have our friends from the Hurricane Heat who are waiting.
Oh, let's get them in here.
Maybe David, you want to interview?
That'd be outstanding. Yeah. So when I was saying that Joe DeSena and I haven't slept for a couple of days, I wasn't kidding. We're out all night on the side of a mountain, doing something called the H3X, which was the Hurricane Heat 24-hour, 5 different places around the world, competing against each other. We've got a couple of crazy guys that were out there with us and leading the event. We're going to.
What was awesome was we took an ancient trail, which you guys, I guess, will talk about and describe here, that was used for the last 1,100 years. So it was a tremendous honor. Wait.
Okay,
this is his kryptonite, but that is a light bag, Olivier. I am not happy with what I'm seeing. He picked that up like a marshmallow. What is that?
So we have some few information about
an empty box?
About the time.
It's a shoebox. Sorry, Olivia. It's a shoebox.
Nothing I can do at the moment. So let me just give you some information about the timing. We have only 2 seconds difference between Albert Solé and Jonathan Albon at the
2 seconds.
At the twister.
2 seconds?
So, absolutely.
Wow.
So that means that Albert is only 35 seconds behind John. So they are getting the same pass at the moment.
It's sort of a 10-second differential that's going back and forth. Joe, what you're seeing is the stone pillar carry. It's a special obstacle just for this
filled with helium.
This event, it weighs 4 pounds.
The information is that Sergey is coming back on Richard for the first place. Samuel Castella is the fastest time at the moment on the men field, and Susanna is leading also at the women field.
John's got no problem with moving across terrain with a heavy weight on his shoulder.
He looks pretty relaxed.
He's super calm.
Really annoying.
It's really annoying, yeah.
So it seems like John has the race under control at the moment.
Want to bring in the HH guys?
We are coming. We are getting the Crypteia from the H3X live now.
Let's going to bring in Mark Peterson and David Wood, two of the Crypteia that led the competitors through the Hurricane Heat. Just joining us now is John Albin. We're tracking with John, who's taking on board a little bit of nutrition as he makes his way outside of the pillar carry. The gentlemen have joined me here in the booth. Mark, let me just give you a little bit of a microphone tweak there. There we go. We do all sorts of stuff on air around here. David Wood and Mark Peterson, thanks for joining us. A lot of folks watching may not be aware of what was going on overnight. Started at 6 a.m. yesterday. You guys were nearby in the ancient olive groves doing something called the H3X. What exactly was that, Mark? Tell us about what that means.
So H3X is a combination that took 3 of the Hurricane Heat formats. Formats for Hurricane Heat are based on the length of time, 4 hour, 12 hour.
Wood. David, thank you for joining us. David's the CEO and founder of Virtus Outdoors, and David was one of the Crypteia. Crypteia is a name for the ancient SAS, or that was sort of like the secret police, if you like, of the ancient Spartans. But now they are the instructors that take participants through.
Yeah, we see this a lot. We get asked this a lot. Yeah, we see this a lot. We get asked this a lot. If I've done a sprint, can I make it through a hurricane heat? If I've done a beast, can I make it through a hurricane heat? Then they don't have parallels. Being a good runner isn't the same as being able to work together. So the hurricane heat is about learning how to communicate, how to work together as a team, how to overcome your personal demons, and come out on top.
Look at that technique he's using there. He's just one hand, 1 foot. He's walking his feet along the Tyrolean Traverse. It makes it look so easy. I tell you what, it's not easy. You'll see a lot of folks just kind of hanging there. Dave, you probably did a lot of that in your military career in the early days when you were training.
Yeah, it's not easy.
What did you? What were some of the standout things from the H3X 24-hour event overnight for you? What are you taking away from that event? What were some of the highlights?
You know, getting to work with Mark, getting to work with Rudy Reyes, you know, Force Recon Scout Snipers, and getting to see different leadership traits come out. And really, you know, Terry Bowman, you know, Krav Maga expert, BJJ fighter, good friend of mine, tapping out.
So he was a participant in the event.
He was a participant. He tapped out.
Fighter.
You can search Terry Bowman knockouts, and you'll see this guy's a beast. He makes me look like a shrimp. Seeing him tap out, say my body can't take anymore, you know, and kind of go into the whole fighter methodology and say this is so much harder. You know, he's done all the go rucks. He said this is physically and mentally a whole nother level. And the fact that he wants to come back, wants to train, stayed, helped, you know, anybody could have just walked off. It's not like the Agoge where you're there. You know, he could have just left and gone to his hotel room, but he stayed and he helped. And it's that kind of military bond that I love. And I see it more and more every time. You know, it's really an evolution.
How did tell us, as John makes his way up a very steep slope there, and look at the mountain ranges in the background. John's still holding on to his lead, doing extremely well. You can see our camera operating team using every means of transport necessary to keep up. They'll use planes, trains, and automobiles. You can see the guys are just zooming around to catch up to the athletes. Mark, what was going on last night? It was in 5 locations around the world.
That's right.
Mexico, the Philippines, 2 places in the US, East and West Coast, and here in Greece. How did that whole format work?
So we had to design a plan that would work for all 5 of those venues. So we took the best of where we were in every location and combined the movements and the team building and the challenges and put it to whatever terrain they were coming across. And we did that based on time. So we made every challenge about time.
Got it. And they were also fighting for points as well.
Certainly, yeah. They were all competing against each other. So, again, using time, if one of the movements required a piece of teamwork, we allowed one team to do that in time so that they could then have their time compared to the other venues.
Here's John at the spear throw. Now you can see this is very different. This is not done anywhere else in the world. He's picking up a shield, 40 pounds, I believe, and he's switching around. He's trying to find something that feels right. Now, he's not going to be used to this. Waiting to see how he does on the spear throw. No problem. He's away. That's a little bit different. So, you know, we have the spear throw in the water, of course, and then the spear throw with the shield. Certainly makes it very difficult. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this broadcast. You guys are probably looking forward to getting a little bit of sleep, getting a little bit of recovery. It's been a great honor to spend a bit of time with you overnight out on the mountain, and we'll see you again soon for some more hurricane heat action. John Albin picking up some of the columns. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the results that are coming through right now, live on the full course. We have John Albin, 24 minutes and 58 seconds. Is his current total time. He's in first position. You see John carrying the column. So the idea behind this obstacle, again, it's not something you guys will be familiar with if you've done a few Spartan events. The idea is you had to get 4 of those columns and stack them on top of each other to make a perfect pillar. There's all of these sort of unique obstacles that the racers are coming across, Olivier, in this event, with the shield, of course, on the spear throw just previously, and then the column stacking.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the part of the 2 obstacles which are unique in this course. And we see now that John Albon is getting on his way around the hills of Sparta. That's the most beautiful landscape and the most beautiful part of the race. You're alone in these hills.
Unreal.
And you can imagine what happened in the antiques time of Sparta at this time, so.
It's inspirational. It was incredible also to see the background at the Tyrolean Traverse. You can see now John Albon making his way back towards the town. You can see all the white buildings above John Albon's left shoulder in the shot there. Very typical of Greek architecture. If you've been to Greece before, you'll see that they render a lot of the houses and make them white, and they really stand out in a sort of an ancient way, really, in the environment. John's making his way down the rocky sort of dirt-filled road. There's really no problem with the terrain here for John. He's not exactly technical running for him, but it is a downhill gradient. So he's able to put on a little bit of speed. The key here, I think, Olivier, is who can take these downhills the quickest.
Absolutely.
That's where you make up time. The differential on the uphills is fairly negligible compared to how much time can be made up on the downhills.
Okay, so we have some information about the timing now at Tyrolean Traverse. And they are Albert Soler and Jonathan. They have only 3 seconds difference. So basically, there is no real change.
Right. So no real change in the time differential between John Albon and Albert Soler that we, I understand, am I right, Olivier, that timing is coming just from the, just moments ago from the Tyrolean Traverse.
Yeah, absolutely. We can really say that we are live on the timing.
This is, there's some of the data you can see right now. There's 16.4 kilometers to the finish. That's about 10 miles. John Albon, 24 minutes, 58 seconds, and Albert Soler, 25 minutes and 1 second. So it's extremely close event right now. John Albon is keeping the pace. He hasn't slowed down at all. In fact, I think he's sped up just a little bit. It's useful for him that he's got this downhill as a sky runner. His technique is outstanding. He's used to running down extreme gradients and indeed up them. So the 1,000 meters of elevation that he's having to go up over the course of this beast shouldn't prove any problem for him.
Yeah, Tyrolean Traverse is only 10K, so we still have 16
yep.
kilometers to go.
10 miles.
Yeah, 21st obstacle out of 49. So we are not even at the half of the course. So a lot of things can still happen. It looks like Richard Heineck is going third at the moment. So also keeping his third place general on the Trifecta ranking on Sergei Pereligin. So we'll keep you updated, of course, about all this time difference, about all this timing, because this is important today. They are running one after one ahead each other, so it's not easy for us to really follow. We need some information.
Right, yeah. If you're wondering how it works, I mean, there are the timing mats that are placed out on the course, and when the athletes cross those timing mats, we know exactly where they are with the chip that's being carried on them. However, because in between those mats, there is a lot of terrain, some of it difficult, some of them single track in the mountains. There's all sorts of technical and environmental challenges to tracking these athletes. We do the best with all of our staff on the course, of course, and the officials, and we have all the information coming in. But it is difficult. That's John getting onto the heavy chain carry. That's shipping chain.
Joe could not say that this is not heavy.
he could definitely.
Otherwise, I will give him, and he will change from the kettlebell to the chain.
Exactly. that chain's heavy. Believe me, folks. That's the sort of stuff that keeps a ship.
Yeah, this
anchored.
is what we're going to do. We're going to offer a chain to Joe. Yeah, he will have to carry that.
I like that. I like that. Instead of so folks, Joe DeSena, who was on air with us before, he's the CEO and founder of Spartan. He likes to carry a kettlebell around with him. He carries it everywhere. Carries it through airports to meetings, home. I think he puts it in the shower. It really doesn't leave his side. But you think maybe the chain could be the potential replacement.
but this is why, I mean, Joe being, of course, the founder of Spartan, but you see that he's living that every day, talking about the kids, not being on TV, not being on screens. He was just saying that to say, okay, for him, at school, all the kids should be like doing 30 burpees every hours. Well, maybe it's a little bit, but yeah, that's true.
No,
we are all facing this, the kids' attitude in those days, and we should prefer them to be out in the nature and using their body and their mind to grow.
Absolutely. And that applies not just for kids, that applies for everybody. And what's been so great about this weekend here in Sparta has been the parallels between the ancient Spartans, their learnings and their way of living, and the sport of Spartan.
This is what is happening today. You have the memory board in the middle of the chain carry. So to try to make your mind even a little bit more out of the game. And the sequence has changed from yesterday. They have 2 days. They have one shield, right? More on the sequence. So it's completely
seven shields
yesterday.
Today. Okay. So there's 7 shields on the memory board today for the athletes to remember. Yesterday was 6. John's really spending his time getting this right. He doesn't want a burpee. And yesterday he memorized the 6 shields correctly. However, it wasn't the right row. So how it works, and I explained this yesterday, but how it works is the last digit of his headband is the row that he has to remember. He just little head check there.
Spending a lot of time to
longer than yesterday.
Whoa.
Yeah, 30 burpee penalty if he doesn't get that right. And 30 burpees is not only a time burn, but very draining physically on the body. And John wants to put every ounce of energy into his race and not waste it on a penalty.
Wow! Look at the landscape. Look at the images we have today. That's crazy. That's amazing. This is why you want to come here. Yeah. It's just to run among those hills. You have the big mountains behind you. It's fantastic. I remember last year, Alisa Hole was really talking about this ancient ground and what she felt running this race, and maybe even thinking about what happened in centuries ago.
You can't help it.
Unfortunately, she's not really into the race this weekend. But what she said from last year, what she get from last year was very interesting.
You can't help thinking that, because when you're running along these trails and you can see in the background, you've got a perfect idea of what this place looks like. Very dry sort of environment, not a lot of rainfall, lots of olive groves and sort of sparse vegetation, big mountain ranges, and you just can't help thinking about ancient times when you're here, especially when you see the way that the villages look with their white buildings. There's John finishing the chain carry. That was quite a long chain carry, I must say. He'll be feeling nice and light after taking that chain off. He's also just checking his hand. That hand was I'm trying to remember. It's not the injured hand. It was his left hand that he hurt yesterday. So maybe he was just checking. Maybe it was a little numb, or who knows? From the chain carry, he could have had a bit of blood flow restricted from the heavy chain, but I think he looks fine. Now look at this, coming around the other side on the course.
Richard Hynek. So we have some more information now. Sorry for the time to get the right information, but we didn't want to display wrong timing. And I told you that Jonathan and Albert were on the same time, which is apparently not the case. I mean, Jonathan is 3 minutes above.
That didn't seem right to me. That didn't seem right to me because they were clearly visually not together on the Tyrolean Traverse. So
absolutely.
I thought perhaps maybe there was some incorrect information coming through there. So I'm glad to know that that's not the case.
Yeah, and Richard,
I'm glad in the sense that we're getting the right times. I'm not. Yeah, let me just be clear.
We're live.
Yeah. That's right.
So we are doing and trying to get all the information possible, of course, to make this live as interesting as possible. But we now have some good information, and Richard Heineck is the Czech guy, which is third at the total ranking after the day one cumulative sprint and super races. He's now second on the beast time, so he's faster than Albert Solé, but still only 23 seconds. So he's not at the moment going back on Albert on the final.
There's no loss. There's no loss of time.
But he's faster than him, so they get only 1 minute. Let me check. They had only Richard was 1 minute 30 behind Albert, so he gets 1/3. Let's say 1/3 of his time.
Richard started with a minute 30 deficit to Albert Solé, and Albert Solé started with 37 seconds deficit to John Albon. So over the course of 27.4 kilometers, you know, these sorts of deficits can easily be made up, on a variety in a variety of ways. You know, using the downhills to their advantage is definitely one of them. Hoping that your competitor burpees an obstacle is definitely another way you can make up a lot of time. Some of the obstacles that we saw yesterday proving a challenge were the balance beams. Some of the leading female elites had some trouble on the multi-rig. Susanna came off the multi-rig on the sprint yesterday afternoon, which cost her 30 burpees. There's Richard Heineck making his way up the elevation before he winds down the roads that we saw John on earlier towards the village. Olivier just getting all the information he can. There's a whole team buzzing around us here. There's more of a challenge on the beast course for up to date to the second information, just because of the amount of distance that this course is spread over. The sprint yesterday was 7.9 kilometers, the super 16.2 kilometers, and of course the beast today, as I said, 27.4 kilometers. So it's a really spread out area. Here's Susanna at the spear throw. Olivier, she's got the shield out in front. And she hits the shot. And she's super happy about it as well.
Happy.
Yeah, look at that. Double thumbs up. She's still smiling about it.
Very good. Thank you, Susanna, for this. It's a great image.
That's an awesome image. And I think she's still smiling. There you go. Even another fist pump. I tell you what, I think she was a little bit worried. I saw her bring the shield in front of her. I was worried that might be a sort of awkward position. I'd almost want to keep it by my side, but
exactly.
I haven't tried it yet. I'll go and try it a little bit later. She's on the column stack right now. Let's watch this. This is a really interesting obstacle. Haven't seen this before.
Seems to be heavy enough, no?
Oh, you bet it's heavy.
I hope so.
You bet it's heavy. I mean, it's not quite an atlas stone,
so
but it is
information
heavy.
About few information also about the woman. I mean, Susanna is leading at the moment with 3 minutes in front of Janka. So 3 minutes plus the 2:30, so it's 5 minutes 30. So she almost have like two obstacle or two joker, let's say, on Janka Pepova. And Janka is faster at the moment than Nicole Miracle by 1 minute. So Janka is keeping a second place over a ranking on the Trifecta weekend.
Right. Susanna up to her third and final column to stack. You can see how she's straining under the weight of it there, 30 to 40 pounds, I believe, each column.
Absolutely.
And you can see the way that thuds down, no problem. And if the column falls over, the rules state the column falls over after the athlete has stacked the column, that is a failure.
Absolutely.
So you can't just toss the stone down. You have to be a little bit careful. I was actually a little worried there watching the way Susanna put that third one on top, that it might come unstuck and the whole thing would fall over. But no problem. It hasn't phased her, and she's away from that obstacle and back onto the run. John Albon, I think, taking in a little nutrition, a gel or a bar, perhaps. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't quite get to see what he was eating, but this is Janka Popova. So Janka is on the Tyrolean Traverse.
Thibaut Jean and David Labros are together with Janka Popova.
Both French athletes are placed in 9th and 10th position at the start of this race.
The risk a little bit with the Tyrolean Traverse with this technique that they go from one side to the other, like this kind of.
Did she? Ooh,
yeah,
that was
to fall down.
Just as you said that, Janka took one foot off. It was interesting. She was really swinging her legs quite wide as she made each step along the rope. Look, see what she's doing right there, guys. She's letting her arms get some feeling back in them. She's been hanging by her hands and arms on the Tyrolean Traverse, so she was sort of just shaking them out, getting them back comfortable again before, getting into a bent elbow position and a regular running stance. Let me get a quick weather update for you guys out there as well. I want to check how many degrees it's increased since this morning.
The sun is shining.
Oh, the sun is absolutely shining. We're expecting a top of 22 degrees Celsius today. It's 18 degrees now. It's 6 degrees warmer, 6 degrees Celsius warmer than it was just over an hour or an hour and a half ago. So exactly what I was talking about. It's also quite humid, believe it or not, even though this is what I find really strange in this part of the world. It looks very dry. You can see the dust on John Albon's shorts, and Joe DeSena mentioned earlier he could see the dust coming up from Susanna's footsteps. So it's very dry when you look around, but it's about 60% humidity right now. Light breeze, 60% humidity. So you sweat and you lose a lot of water. So that in combination with the temperature leads to heat exhaustion very quickly out there, and it's taxing on the athletes.
John Albon continuing the pass and going ahead the course 3 minutes faster than Albert Solé at the moment on the last timing point that we had. Richard Heineck is faster as well than Albert, but they are just 20 seconds difference. That makes the race at least at the moment, for the second, third place very interesting. We will try to have more information about what is the pace or the speed of Sergei Pereligin. And we are entering now a very technical descent.
This is the stuff where John Albon will be quite at home. You can see him take back onto the single track there. This is awesome. If you're into trail running, if you enjoy Spartan racing, this is the sort of stuff you want to watch. Look at the way John Albon is keeping his hands extremely relaxed as he makes his way down. What's also awesome to watch is the shadow of our camera operator. He's got one hand occupied with the stabilization rig and the camera, so it's even harder for our operators to make their way down here. But you can see John is keeping very fluid and steady as he makes his way down this road. A little bit of technical steep descent before hitting this road, ducking and weaving through the trees. And that's the sort of stuff too that can be fatiguing over time, especially to some athletes that aren't used to running on technical terrain. It's all the adaptations and slight movements that you have to make with unfamiliar or rather changing terrain that makes it really hard to race. About 3 minutes between John Albon and second place Albert Solé. He's coming across the bender right now. Best way to do that, of course, is grab the rungs on the camera side right now that you're facing. Get your foot up onto one of the crossbars as quick as you can, and then it's pretty easy from there. Actually, it looks really difficult, but getting the foot on there makes it quite easy.
Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. The race is very beautiful here at the moment, and John Albon getting 3 minutes and 43 seconds ahead of Albert Soler, the Spanish guy.
Yeah, so
quite comfortable at the moment. We see that
yeah,
he left only with
37
seconds.
Yeah, so he's put on 3 minutes. I mean, this is kind of like one of two outcomes that we were expected. It was either going to be John putting the accelerator on and sort of putting a very, very big lead in between him and Albert, or Albert keeping up with John. That doesn't mean that John Albon's got this in the bag at all. There's a lot. Seven shield emblems from ancient Sparta while carrying a heavy chain. That was a sort of a combination obstacle. That chain is exactly what you're seeing on camera right now. It's very awkward to carry. One of the best ways is to do what you're seeing, kind of loop it over each shoulder, hang it over the back, and then grab each end at the front, and that balances out the weight. And Susanna is then, as you're seeing, able to comfortably move across terrain without being off balance.
Okay, the information as well is that Richard Heineck is faster than Albert Soler. He gets only 1 minute difference with Albert, so he's chasing him for the second place. Let's see, because there's a long way to go back to Sparta, almost 14K now.
Right, young.
So lots of things can happen.
He's a young upcoming athlete, Richard Heineck, 20 years old, from Czech Republic. Very, very strong runner. He was a late sign up for the Trifecta World Championship, and wasn't really on anyone's radar, but tracking now to maybe take over second position.
Yeah, and we see this sport is quite new, because it's like, okay, Spartan is here since 10 years maybe, but still, I mean, the competition and really the world championship, all this qualification system, age group, this is on since 3-4 years. So it's a very young sport, and we can see every year newcomers coming from trail running, from cross skiing, from whatever sports, and this will build the heroes, and then maybe Richard is the next hero or the next face of Spartan race.
Look, he has so much of his career ahead of him. You and I talked about this yesterday. In an endurance sport like this, 20 is barely scratching the surface at the start of a career. You'll see most athletes in their prime or in their 30s, and it's funny the way the body works in endurance sports, particularly in running. Where over time you get stronger and stronger. I mentioned Eliud Kipchoge yesterday, the current marathon world record holder in his mid-30s. So it's unlike team sports where if you're in your mid-30s, you're probably not playing, or you're heading towards the end of your career, even if you're a superstar.
And you see, Susanna, she's mid-30 as well, and she's
just an absolute machine
in front of the pack. I mean, in national series, the first two winners, they were 30, 38 and 39, almost close to 40, So it's also a question of getting the right skills, I would say, in this sport. It's endurance, but it's also how to manage the race, and sometimes the experience can really be a game changer.
Experience is, and the mental game in a sport like this is everything. The mind. There's a saying in ultra running, and I think it applies perfectly to Spartan. This sport is 99% mental and 1% mental, and I think that that perfectly sums up the sort of mental approach that is needed towards being successful in a sport like this. You can psych yourself out so easily. And when you're pushing yourself to the limit, like these athletes are, their heart rate's pounding, they're out of breath, their muscles are screaming, everything's telling them to stop. It requires every bit of willpower, grit, perseverance to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I mean, I was working for Ironman for some time, and Chris McCormack was one of the hero in this sport. You know, in triathlon, he won Hawaii after a long time. You know, and he was older. He get more experience. He was training differently, and then he beat and he get the world champion title in Kona after 10 trial. You know, so I think the experience in this type of sport is very, very important. Athletes know them better. They prepare their season differently. They maybe focus on one big objective in the season, and this is where you can still go on long time, not depending on the age, I would say.
Yeah, and the other thing about Spartan is that with experience that you're talking about, the other thing is the obstacle experience, and the incredible thing about this sport is. Not only is it involving technical mountain running at a very fast pace, but it involves very technique-based applications on the obstacles, and that takes some experience to get right. It takes training, and there are different ways to do it. For example, the twister, we saw that John Albon going face first on the twister using a swinging motion. And then you'll see other elite athletes with a sort of elbow at 90 degrees, a stiff locked arm, and they'll move backwards across the twister. All that stuff comes from experience, training, trial and error. And then are they able to say, okay, this is what works for me. This is what's going to give me the best race time.
And this is why it's very important also for Spartan to standardize the obstacles, standardize the races, so that the athletes can be, I would say it's good maybe to have here in Sparta like kind of surprise, because this course is a little bit different and maybe unique.
Right.
But in standard races, it's important that the athletes get better and better and in the technique, how to pass the obstacles, also for the images and for the interest of the sport.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Olivier. And Joe DeSena and I were talking about this last night. And, you know, traditionally, you can see some of the results there on the screen. Traditionally, the sport has used a more flexible approach towards distance. So, for example, you know, the sprint has always been a 3+ miles, where that plus meaning that it could be anywhere between 3, 4, 5 miles. What you're going to see in 2019 is a much tighter a delta, if you like, a much less variability in the distances. So, 3 miles is 3 miles for the sprint, and that's the way it's going to be. And this basically leads to what my point here is that, that standardization, that ability to compare across race to race is the key.
Yeah, that's very important if you want to look like or to have also some standards, but maybe able to compare also from the different countries, because the goal is also to have the Americans coming here next year. I mean, we have Alyssa Ole, we have Nicole Miracle that we are missing. We know that Robert Killian should have come, and maybe a last minute injury or
I'm not. That's something we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. There's been so many stories and so much drama at this particular race. We haven't been able to talk about Robert Killian. Robert Killian, of course, was the favourite to beat John Albon here at the Sparta Trifecta World Championship. Very last minute withdrawal of Robert Killian, champion athlete, a great performance by Robert Killian at the Spartan World Championship in Lake Tahoe at the end of September, and a great race by him for Team USA as well on the Sunday at the Team World Championship. Here's Richard Heineck, who's making his way down the switchbacks onto the red dirt. You can see, look on his left, there's some serious drop-offs, going a little bit too fast could end up in a very sticky situation.
Exactly. Yeah, but Richard, apparently this guy is making everything possible to to get to win time, to keep his place on the podium, and to even beat Albert Soler, because now he has 2 minutes. He's 2 minutes ahead on this beast race. He's 2 minutes ahead of Albert Soler at the last timing points, which that means that he can beat him, and on the total ranking he can be second now.
Richard Heineck took 8th place at the European Championship this year in Morzine. He also comes from a background of soccer, or football as it would be called in Europe. And so, he's very much used to high intensity aerobic
it's not like
work.
this that have to be done in Europe. It's the name of this sport is football.
Got it. I'm an Australian, so any Aussies watching, you'll know that football to us is something a little bit different, and football to, of course, the American Spartan fans that are watching.
They call that football, and they play with the hand. I mean, come on.
Well, you kick it sometimes. There's Susanna making her way up one of the access roads that found around the village of Sparta, and back onto Richard. You know what? It's quite clear to me, watching the way he's moving, that the data we're seeing matches the look, right? So he's making up a lot of time on Albert Soler, and it's clear to me that's because he's pushing himself to the max.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very relaxed arms. You can see it kind of almost looks floppy in his upper body, and he's doing that because
I will not say he's not beautiful to see or he's not nice, but he's
right now. Look at that right there. Do you see that?
Exactly.
Now, why is he doing it? He's doing that. He's doing that. Yeah, exactly. He's doing that because running downhill, it's extremely important to have the upper body relaxed. And when his arms are flopping about like that, what he's actually doing is keeping balance. You can listen to a champion mountain athlete, Kilian Jornet, talk about that. Kilian Jornet will say, if you listen to his advice on running downhill, it's very important to keep the arms relaxed. If they're flapping about like a bird, you don't do it on purpose, but if they're flapping about, that is okay. Richard Heineck showing some really nice technique when he was moving through those downhills.
Efficient, that's the most important.
Yeah, a rigid body moving downhill leads to all sorts of problems when you're going through technical terrain downhill. You kick a rock and you face plant. Not only does that hurt, it takes up time, and you could also put yourself out of the race. Here's Susanna coming up to the bender. Let's watch this. I love to watch
with
our elite athletes.
Peter Ziska. Peter Ziska was a very, very good athlete. Like 3 years ago, he was winning the European Championship in 2016.
Yep.
And now is a little bit less performance, no?
Yeah, it's just dropped off a little bit. One of the things I was going to mention just there with Susanna and Peter Ziska was that Susanna is a little shorter than Peter, so she wasn't able to muscle up across the first 3 bars. So what she did, for all our female athletes watching, she grabbed the lowest bar, wrapped her legs around it, was able to then get a knee on it, and then walk her way over the obstacle.
Yeah, so the race on the course for the woman, Susanna is in front of the course. After we have the timing mat after the Tyrolean Traverse. Janka Pepova was 4 minutes behind, so she lost again 1 minute. And little by little, Janka is going back. Losing time,
losing some time, losing some ground. And what's happening here is that the 2 champions that started off in the staggered start, John Albin and Susanna,
they're keeping the lead.
Not only they're keeping the lead, they're putting some distance on their opponents in 2nd and 3rd place.
Absolutely. And the important information on the woman race is that Janka Pepova is faster than Nicole Miracle today. So maybe Nicole did again some burpees like yesterday, because I think on the super she did 60 burpees.
Yes.
And on the sprint 90 burpees.
Yes, that's right. 90 burpees on the sprint yesterday, and that takes the wind out of the sails a little bit when you're out there. I'm trying to get some intel coming in from the course to figure out whether she has indeed burpeed an obstacle. So stand by if we can get that information. I wonder whether Richard Hynek is going to be able to catch John. Now, this is awesome to see. Albert has been displaced. He's moved to third place. Richard Hynek is putting the accelerator hard down, and he's going for John Albin.
Exactly. I mean, he's winning time on John. You know?
Now, there's 12K to the finish, and you can see that that's plenty of time for Richard to catch up to John.
So let's stay with us. Let's see what's gonna happen in the next hour. We have now almost 1 hour 45 time on the race. It will be more than maybe 2:30, no?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on you know, how the athletes handle the final climbs. I think they look pretty strong. They're tracking at a fairly consistent pace right now. There's Susanna making her way down the technical terrain that we were watching John on earlier. This was the tight little switchback. You can't quite see it with our camera operator making his way down there. Very difficult for the operators on this terrain, but sort of switchbacks until Susanna hits that road there. She's making very good time.
Yeah, it's not that easy to try to make the movie and getting into this type of descent behind a girl like Susanna, but we will kept on her a little bit later.
Susanna did extremely well this year at the World Championship, Spartan World Championship in Tahoe. You know, she managed to get third place behind Rebecca Hammond, and Lindsay Webster, of course, took first place. And there wasn't a lot of time between second and third place. Rebecca and Susanna were basically within a minute of each other. And the second point there is that Susanna was also she was 50-50 on whether she was going to race. She wasn't quite sure whether you know, her body was going to respond well, but she did. She made her way to Tahoe, and she got a podium spot. And right now she is she is certainly intending to take that first place.
Yeah, but that's the interest also with the World Championship, which is Tahoe, Spartan now with the Trifecta, Iceland with the Ultra. It's also to get all these athletes over the world to come and beat and battle, you know, because
it's awesome.
Also what what Spartan wants to do with the Spartan TV on Facebook is to get live from races all over the world. World Championship, 3 times in the season where you can say, okay, everybody's coming together, and now we will see what's the level.
Yeah, and it's a really good point. And these 3 championships really tell a story, and I think next year they'll tell even more of a story as this sport starts to, you know, really find its place. The Spartan World Championship is a solo race, of course, the Beast, and then the Trifecta World Championship. Very different in the fact that you're doing the super and the sprint on one day.
Yeah.
You approach it completely differently. It's a lot more volume, of course. You're racing over 2 days. To do 3 Spartan races in 2 days, I mean, anybody that's done a Trifecta weekend and done all 3.
What that means, yes.
Yeah, I know exactly what that means. In fact, we have a couple of very interesting guys that have joined us here in Sparta this weekend that have over 50 lifetime trifectas. We're going to meet them later on tonight, but these guys have basically traveled the world and are doing 15, 18 trifectas a year, and they've managed to rack up 50 plus.
Because Sparta is not only the Trifecta World Championship, but it's also the Trifecta community recognition, I will say, because today all the multiple Trifecta will get a special gifts, I would say, coin, patch,
special collectible items,
even a shield for
a shield.
The times 13 plus, you know.
Nice. 13 plus, was it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's important to tell those guys. I mean, they are the feel of Spartans, no? The guys who are doing the
absolutely.
Trifectas, they are the most.
Absolutely. The men and women that are doing the Trifectas, look, if you've done a Spartan event and you're looking to take it to the next level, go for the Trifecta. It's an incredible achievement. Very difficult to do 3 races at all And then, of course, there are select races around the world where that can be done in one weekend. But I prefer to do one race at a time, and go for a couple of trifectas a year, and of course that there are all sorts of goodies and collectible items and special trophies that come along with it that very few people get around the world. Here's the bucket carry. This is a brutal obstacle. Look at the way that his head is down, his eyes are down.
And we saw also Albert in the bucket carry, so that means Richard has passed.
Richard has passed and is in second position. Albert Soleil is he's not looking as strong as he did yesterday.
Yeah, he was starting 1 minute after Albert, and it seems that he has. At the last timing point,
he's made that up.
2 minutes. So I think Richard now in the course is in front of Albert. So the global ranking, Trifecta ranking at the moment, it's Jonathan Albon, Richard Aynet, and Albert Soleil third.
He's made up that minute and is now taking over in second position. It's about the 17.5 kilometer mark right now at the bucket carry. So he effectively has 10 kilometers to catch John ahead of him, about a minute ahead of him right now.
So, okay. And then we have the bucket carry now, and then the next obstacle will be the sandbag carry. So I think they will leave a lot of energy into these two obstacles, and then we will see what is.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, carries are so functional. They're a great thing to do in training. And, we're talking about Joe DeSena earlier, carrying around that kettlebell. He's not doing that for show. I mean, it's extremely taxing on the body. Great training to carry stuff around. If you're at home and you really don't have any equipment, or even if you do, just grab something heavy and walk it around. Joe DeSena took a few of us out the other morning when we came in for the broadcast with 4 o'clock in the morning. Kicked us out of bed. And gave us a whole bunch of rocks, and we took those rocks
just after the bucket carry, going on his way to the next obstacle number 31, sandbag carry, 31 out of 49, so still 18 obstacles to go and 10 kilometers.
This is the part of the race where you really have to dig deep. They've been on the course for nearly 2 hours.
Nearly 2 hours, yes. So, this beast will be over 2 hours 30, which is a long race.
It is a very long race.
Taho was 3 hours, no, a little bit less than 3 hours.
Yeah, I'll just pull up the exact results for you right now from Taho, so we can take a look at that.
And for this type of effort, of physical efforts, that's a long time.
Yeah, Taho was actually a lot quicker. Olivier, John Albon did it in 2:07.
Oh, okay.
So this is going to eclipse that by quite a bit, and the reason being that this is longer. This is definitely longer, but Taho had the elevation gain. So it's really the distance that these athletes are traveling. More obstacles as well. I mean, 48 obstacles is stacked.
Because today we have 1,000 meters.
1,000 meters of gain. Right. Yeah.
But going up and down, up and down, up and down. So it's a little bit different than Taho or Morzine or this type of really mountains races where you go really up hard.
Yeah, Taho is like 3 miles of like solid uphill from the start line to the top. If you're watching that race, or if you were even there, you managed to qualify and race at Taho as an elite or age group racer. If you're there as an open racer, you'll know that you go from the start line. It's literally just you're just legging it uphill for a few miles. Whereas this, as you mentioned, is that sort of rolling terrain, less high mountains around here versus California, where the Spartan World Championship is held, but in Northern California. But the fact is that these rollers are pretty tiring because you're switching your technique around and it breaks up your rhythm. So, 1 minute you're sort of hand over hand, getting your way uphill, and then suddenly you're bombing downhill. John's got the sandbag carry on the back of his neck and shoulders. He's using the strength of his shoulders to support that weight.
So a little bit of information on what's happening also behind the three first guys. Peter, this guy is getting the 4th place now in front of Sergei Perligin. I mean, Sergei is not is 7 minutes now behind Albert Soler, and even 9 minutes behind Richard. So it's not a good day for Sergei, and I think he is out of the podium. Samuel Castella is coming back on Sergei at the 6th place. So, and Jakub Aviarik, sorry, is on 6th place between Sergei Perligin and Samuel Castella. Okay, we can see that on the screen now. Jonathan Albon, 1 hour 24, 1 minute ahead of Richard Hynek, but he had more than 3 minutes on Richard, 5 or 6 kilometers away. So
correct.
Let's see if Richard can come back. Come back on Jonathan.
He's gaining ground. He's gaining ground on John.
He's gaining ground. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gaining ground. John still looks particularly strong. I mean, he's not going to be phased by anyone behind him.
Yeah, because what we see on the screen is the time of the beast. All right, so we still have to calculate for the global trifecta ranking.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, I mean, Richard can come back on John and win the race beast today. That will make not him the trifecta world champion. All right.
That's right. So the reason we're commenting about excitedly about John not winning the beast, is because if he can be displaced by enough time, then overall he could be knocked out, and then knocked out of the running for the $1 million, which he's going for as taking the 3 big world championship sweep. If he wins this weekend's championship and then moves on to Iceland and is able to win that, it's a $1 million prize for him. This is a really long carry, and you can see extremely tiring having to carry the heavy sandbag up and down the technical terrain.
John Albon on the sandbag carry now, just after the bucket carry. Those two obstacles were one after the other, just 2.5 kilometers difference, or 1.5
kilometers difference between those. So, yeah. And then of course there's another carry coming up after this. They'll move into the water and onto the sled pull, but they'll also have to then go to the Atlas carry.
Yeah. And then we'll go to the inverted wall, and then we will come to the surprise of the day. Let's see. We will talk about that later when they will arrive to this obstacle, or they will be inside this obstacle. Let's say
inside. Interesting. I wonder what it could be. I've got it in front of me, but I'm not going to tell anybody. Let's watch and see what happens. What's coming up? John's still on the sandbag carry. This is absolutely brutal. We saw this too at the European Championship in Morzine, Olivier, that long sandbag carries seem to be a specialty of Spartan's European course designers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it firsthand because I went and did the last couple of years. I was lucky enough to be at the European Championship at Morzine, and I went out on the course just to see what was going on, and I grabbed a sandbag and I did the course, and I was doing the sandbag carry, and man, my heart rate was pounding. The long carries up and down and up and down.
Yeah, you always have to play with the terrain and to get some. Also, even if you're standouts on the obstacles, you also need to make the destination
a little bit, let's say, attractive, or that athletes can remind and say, okay, I'm going to Paris because it's flat and a lot of waters and I like this, or I'm going to Morzine because I like the elevation.
Right.
All this, any destination may have a different feeling, a different flair. So this is why, I mean, those mountain series, what we have now around the world, no? There's one in the US, there's one in Europe as well. This year that was the first edition.
That's
with
right.
Dolomite,
That's
Andorra,
right.
and Oberndorf.
Wow, what beautiful venues! Yeah, we saw the first for the first time this year 2 mountain series, one in the United States and one, as Olivia mentioned, in Europe. And so and some really tough Spartan racing.
And there is a beast on this mountain series.
Yeah.
This year, it's we had basically 3 Italians on the first 3 place on the mountain series in Europe.
It's also awesome to see in the United States that the United States Air Force partnering with Spartan on the mountain series, and we saw some really great competition. This is John Albin with the sandbag carry tracking along now. He's had it in position there the whole time. He hasn't moved his arms. You can see right there, he's shaking. Good timing. You can. That's why I mentioned it. He's just shaking the hand out because having them gripping onto the sandbag for so long, the blood starts to run out of your hands. There's Susanna's result right now: 1 hour 42 minutes and 48 seconds. And Nicole, quite a ways
Nicole
back.
Miracle is in front of Janka Pepova now.
So there's been a switch over in the last 20 minutes or so.
1 minute. That means that she should be able to get back on her now and maybe running together the two girls, because Nicole left only with 1 minute. 1 minute after Janka. She started this morning 1 minute after Janka, and she has 1 minute better time on the beast. So she should run together the two. So maybe the second and third place on the women will be very interesting to watch and to follow.
I wonder whether burpees might have come into play. We've been tracking some of the other athletes on camera, but I wonder whether Nicole was able to overtake Janka due to a burpee penalty back there. I'm not exactly sure. Let's find out. But Nicole was significantly behind Janka, so that's an interesting change of position.
So we have some John images of Susanna.
And John is about to breathe a massive sigh of relief, high-fiving his way out of the sandbag carry, and he's finally gotten rid of that burden, and he's away, and he's back into his regular running rhythm. That was a really long carry. I mean, by any standards. If you're watching this, oh man, that's tough. I feel for you if you're heading out on the course today. Anybody watching right now who may be one of the open category races.
Absolutely, this is always the point. We are looking at the elite and say, look at as fast as they are.
Yeah.
But let's think about the open and the last hit of the day.
It's awesome. It's awesome to see the great range of talent, backgrounds, diverse people. And that's what's so cool about this sport. You don't have to be an elite athlete like John Albin to get out and do a Spartan race.
Yeah, I think it is a sport because we are always talking about performance, and it's very important to get a timing. But I mean, performance is very, I would say, personal.
Relative, isn't it?
Yeah,
relative to who
you
are.
have your own objective. You don't have to be first in your category, whatever. You just have to give everything what is in you when you're racing. And it's always a performance. It's your performance. So that's very important to train, to have fun with your speed, with your physical abilities. We don't have all the time, maybe, or the choice, to train every day.
Day jobs. Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
I'm talking for myself now. But.
No, me too. And that's the thing. Like yesterday, I saw so many open racers coming in with big smiles on their face because they've pushed themselves on the grit curve. And speaking of someone pushing himself on the grit curve, Joe DeSenna's just come by the broadcast booth. He's dropped the kettlebell. And he's. I'll get you a headset here, Joe. We'd like to hear what you've been up to.
All right, how we doing? How's it looking on the $1 million purse?
It's not looking great for you right now, Joe. As we switch positions here in the broadcast booth, John Albon is still tracking a minute ahead, just over a minute ahead in the lead. But there's been a change in second place. Albert Soleil has moved to third, and the 20-year-old, the young 20-year-old from Czech, is in second and going hard for first place. And John, he's got about 10K. Within to make up that distance. So,
how's John looking? Fresh?
He just did probably the longest sandbag carry I've ever seen,
and he's still going.
And he's still going. I mean, you can see his cadence there is a little bit more ginger than at the start of the race. He's got a little bit of fatigue on him, but he looks strong to me.
Is the number 2 competitor on the sandbag yet?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So it's only a minute and a half behind. It's sort of an incredible rush to second position by Richard Hynek. So he was a late sign up to the race. He came in under the radar, a football background, soccer background, and a real European contender. So this could be.
We need a spear throw miss.
Yeah. You need a spear throw miss, or you know what it could be. John spent a particularly long time at the memory test. Probably, I'd say, Olivier, over a minute. And then as he checked the shield patterns, which was 7 shields today, not 6, he even turned back and gave it one final look and kind of shook his head and then took off. So I'm not sure he's going to remember it, and that could cost him 30 burpees.
We were just talking about maybe adding a memory test to Iceland.
It's 50 shields long for John.
If you're going to do 100 miles, I would think every mile you've got to remember a number. Now you got 100 numbers to cross the finish line.
That's a very cool idea, and it changes every lap. Taking notes. This is something to watch for, folks, if you're heading to Iceland.
What do we have coming up here on the course?
So we have we're into the last third now. We expect probably another 20 minutes or so of racing, Olivier. We've got a secret obstacle coming up. We're not allowed to talk about it till we hit it.
I've heard about this secret obstacle. Look at this. Susanna
is
crushing the bucket carry.
This is Susanna on the bucket carry. Extremely difficult obstacle at the 17.5 kilometer mark. She's got about 10 kilometers to go from this position. There she goes, emptying the bucket. Of course, when the bucket is full, it must go up to the holes, and when it's full properly, that thing is really tough to carry. One of your specialties.
I've been there. Yeah,
You've been there and done that.
Yeah.
And right after the bucket carry, you have the sandbag carry. So it's.
So she's about to launch into the world's longest sandbag carry.
What does she look like as far as second place? How far behind the second place?
Well, it's really interesting. So we saw a change of place there as well. Nicole Miracle, the US athlete, moving into second position now. Then Janka Popova, the winner of the sprint yesterday, bumped down into third. So we're trying to get some intel out from the course, but we think a burpee penalty was the culprit.
Makes sense.
Okay, sled pull for Jonathan Albon. Kilometer 21.
Oh, boy.
So still
Did you see
6 kilometers to go.
Did you see that? He was really struggling there to get it moving. Once you get the momentum, it's okay, but he is putting everything into that sled pull. Look at his knees. His 1 foot was airborne.
It's heavy enough, Joe, you think?
It is heavy enough.
Okay, cool.
But I wish it would go another kilometer or 2.
Right. Okay. Notes for the European course designers.
But he told me yesterday that he will send me notes on everything.
It's a 2 kilometer sled pull. We got to write that down, okay?
Here he is. Back out. But he's running. He knows he's getting near the end.
I bet he wish he'd love to jump on that trail bike right now and just get this thing done. But
he doesn't have anybody breathing on his neck.
Well, it's that 1 minute plus about a minute and a half, Olivia. I think we're tracking right now as you're pulling up some of the timing splits.
We have the time of John Albon at the sled now, just 2 hours.
Right on it, 2 hours and 35 seconds.
So we're just waiting one by one.
Stand by for the next one.
Very quick, where Richard is. He was only 1 minute 20 seconds behind John, 5 kilometers before. So let's see what is the time difference now, and if Richard continue to come come back on Jonathan.
6.2 kilometers to go. And what's really interesting about this is in 7 more minutes time, John would have won the Spartan World Championship in Lake Tahoe. So he's got 7 more K to go here. Significantly longer finish time.
But don't forget, they ran a sprint and a super yesterday.
They ran a sprint and a super yesterday, and this course is longer than the Tahoe World Championship Beast course. We're talking about the elevation difference here, the fact that it's much more sort of rolling terrain, whereas Tahoe starts off with that 3-mile sprint uphill.
Sure.
So they're going to arrive now at the Atlas Carry and the inverted wall, and then we will come into this surprise.
That's sort of back-to-back carries. That's what really smashes you as an athlete. You know, the arms will be really heavy right now. Joe, you've been carrying your kettlebell around all day and night. I was talking about it on air before, just the fact that you take that thing to the airport, you take it to the conference room, you take it to the shower.
Take it to bed.
You take it to bed. Right, okay. Okay, it's got
some people take a little teddy bear. I take the kettlebell.
Nothing like snuggling some iron.
That's right.
There's a man that eats barbed wire for breakfast, Richard Heineck from Czech. Those guys know how to train. The harder it is, the better they go.
From Eastern Europeans are just tougher anyway. Do you agree with that, Olivier? I mean, you've had it pretty easy in Western Europe. Eastern Europe, they grew up like tough, right? Cold showers, very little food, behind the wall.
We have also cold shower.
Come on.
And very little
food. Come on. You guys have muffins and croissants.
Oh, water and banana. And they're still complaining, so.
Wine.
Wine.
Caviar, burgers, everything.
I wish you could see it. We were looking at footage of the race. One day we'll try and get the footage of what Olivier's face was there as Joe was asking him that question. John Albin's on the hard pack now, and this is where he can really make some quick Ks and knock out the end of this race.
When would we release the wolves?
I think you do it about now. I think it would be a good time. Let's get this thing done.
So John is on his way now,
picking up his pace,
just coming in from the sides there. Here comes the Atlas Carry.
And now we are coming back on the super loop from yesterday. So
right.
The Atlas Carry was here at the same place.
He
knows exactly. No, not exactly, because there is just one loop will be a little bit different.
He has no issue with the Atlas Carry. John's an incredible athlete. We sat with him in the car, didn't we, on the way down from Athens, Joe? Yeah. And he's not a big guy.
Not a big guy.
But he's got no problem with the carries.
Very measured.
Right.
No ups and downs. I don't know about those burpees. What are those? Step ups?
Joe DeSena not too happy with John Albin's.
I'm gonna have to go to the tape. I got to go to the tape on that one.
Go on to tape, looking for every possible way to stop John from going for this $1 million prize, folks.
It is $1 million. I mean, we're not talking about $1,000 here. This is it's big money. I know I sound like the villain, and I actually like him. I mean, it's a lot like a prisoner eventually starts to love the person that took them,
the captor.
The captor, right? And
he's your financial captor.
He's my financial captor. He does hate the carries, so beware of the carries in Iceland.
That's not a speculation. That's a warning, folks. We got the 500-pound column carry.
That's
right. Okay. John smashes his way through the Atlas carry, no problem. He's back onto the fast tracks around the village of Sparta. He's got about 5 kilometers to go at this stage, Olivier, and we're waiting for the data to come in from the team. One of the big challenges we were saying before, Joe, is because we're in a very rural area of Greece and it's so spread out, getting lots of technical challenges. The fact that we're able to watch the athletes on the course like this is awesome.
And by the way, if you're watching, this is all in historic sites. This is where it went down 2,800 years ago. So you're from your living room. You're watching history being made here.
It's awesome. And
right?
We were talking this morning at about 3 a.m. when we were running around with the H3X guys about the fact that we weren't so familiar with what this place would look like. And you first came here a few years ago and discovered what an incredible place it is.
Blown away. I mean, the mountains, and you could see why they became who they became and why their legend lives on for 2,800 years. It is an epic place.
Ooh, look at that.
Richard Hynek. Richard
us.
Hynek is looking like a Czech draft horse trying to drag.
I think he lost a little bit of time on John.
He's drinking water now?
He's chugging water like there's no tomorrow.
Clearly doesn't care about the
2 hours and 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Richard's been working so hard to move into this second position. You can see the temperature out there, folks, has been rising steadily, and that's why Richard is taking on a lot of water there. It's now 20 degrees. We started at 12 degrees Celsius, so we've made an 8-degree jump in just over 2 hours, and exactly it's playing out exactly as I said.
Richard was only 1 minute behind John, and now he's 4 minutes. So he lost 3 minutes in, again, 3-4 kilometers.
Right.
So
The heat doesn't seem to be affecting Albin.
Yeah, it's just part of his whole strategy here. He said, look, if it's cold, if it's hot, I'm not too worried. I'm not worried about the elevation. The only thing I'm going to be thinking about is running my own race.
Yeah.
Let's see if Albert can come back on Richard again, because at the moment Richard is keeping the second position on the global Trifecta ranking.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So there was 4 minutes and 24 seconds, as you just said, between them at that time. Matt was at the sled pull, and that was about 6K to the finish. You're seeing that data on the screen right there. 4 minutes. 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 24 seconds was the time for Richard Hynek. He's got a bit to make up for if he's going to finish in first place in this beast. There's Susanna
on the sandbag carry.
Still on the sandbag carry. If that gives you any idea of how long this thing is.
So let me get this straight, Olivier. You knew what was at stake here, and you did a single sandbag carry.
I need to call Thomas, no?
I specifically recall
Thomas, please, I help you.
John Albin in social media a couple of years ago screaming and complaining about a double sandbag carry, and he'll never do a race with a double sandbag carry again. And here we are giving him a single sandbag carry.
Single sandbag carry, $1 million.
I'm starting to wonder if Olivier cut a deal on the side with Albin.
Albin's probably been cutting deals left, right, and center all over the place, Joe. Richard Hynek's hurting right now, folks. You can see his sort of form's breaking down a little bit. Not that he's not running fast or anything. He's still really crushing it. But
I think Albert is not going super well neither. So he's losing again time on Richard. So
Albert slipped away. I mean, look, Albert Soleil put everything on the line in the sprint yesterday. To start out hard and of course in the super, coming in first. So he just probably is fatigued today, and then put on top of that the fact that John Albin is just such an experienced athlete. That's why you're seeing that deficit increase. Yeah. Richard Hynek on screen now.
I wonder what these guys did for recovery last night. Any thoughts what the athletes were doing?
Yeah, I chatted to a few. Susanna got in a car, and she wasn't certain, but she got in a car and went over to the ocean, did a little bit of swimming therapy, a bit of water therapy.
Knowing her, a 2 or 3 mile swim?
2 or 3 mile swim. Yeah, exactly.
Caught a live shark and ate it.
Swam right back and then straight to the event this morning. John said that he just kind of had a quiet dinner, and then didn't have the best sleep. He decided to share a room, and a little bit of snoring, he told me, kept him awake overnight.
Right, so that worked.
Okay. Here we go, guys.
Here's the secret obstacle.
John is entering. Let's say the surprise. That's a tunnel. A completely dark tunnel. I mean, we lighted it, of course, but
why did you light it?
500 meters tunnel.
500 meters. Now you put lights.
The door that puts John into his own tunnel.
You put handrails too, Olivia.
Just to show the height of the tunnel. You know?
I've been in completely dark tunnels before in some military exercises. There's no lights.
Right. Look at this. Oh man, Richard Hynek is a bit like a wounded beast right now. He was struggling with that carry. He is super tired right now. The other thing, Joe, that we're talking about is he's so young, you know, for an endurance athlete, 20 years old. He's got a lot ahead of him.
He does have a lot ahead of him. I mean, 30, 35 is when it really starts to happen.
We were talking about Eliud Kipchoge before, you know, current world Olympic marathon champion in his mid-30s.
Yeah. Yeah,
Richard
is the problem. We got to get Richard some oxygen.
Little help out there.
Yeah. But he is tough, and you're right. I think he left everything out on the course yesterday.
You know, he's a big guy too. He's super buffed. He's got very strong arms there. So, you know, for him to be looking a little bit defeated on the Atlas carry shows you how hard
Absolutely.
and how much effort he's put in.
Don't forget, like a marathoner is got one obstacle to deal with, right? Running. A triathlete has 3 obstacles to deal with. We're putting how many obstacles here on the course?
48 obstacles.
48 obstacles they're dealing with, and if they trained at half marathon distance and then you threw at them, you know, an extra 3 or 4 miles, a guy like this starts to break down a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You can add the altitude and the running as another obstacle. So, you know, 50 really.
Obstacles, yeah.
And put the mental challenge of it all together as well. You're going to get crushed. Sorry, what were we going to say, Olivia?
And the heat temperature and everything. So everything is an obstacle. So it's not only 48. It's
that's what's just so incredible about this sport compared to other sports.
Pentathlon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Pentathlons are not doing all in a row, you know?
That's what I'm saying. We this is really made for hardened people.
I think what we're seeing as this sport grows as well is that Spartan athletes are truly some of the fittest and best in the world.
Best in the world.
What do you think? What do you think the closest Olympic sport?
Well, it definitely comes out of track and field, right? Something in track and field.
The decathlon, for example, is
probably the closest, but they're not. What's the longest distance in decathlon?
800 meters.
That's the problem, right?
Because you know that the world record holder is a French guy.
Yeah.
And we wanted to ask him, okay, come to test you on the Spartan. We can see what your aptitudes are. We can compare maybe a Spartan athlete with an Olympic champion or world record holder.
And what did you find? Wouldn't do it?
We are trying to enter in contact with that. You know, those elite athletes, they're not just doing for a job.
In the States, we've had many Olympic athletes come out that are just pure runners, sprinters, mid-distance. And I can't tell, they can't hold a candle to our athletes because when you throw in the obstacles, it just changes the entire game.
Absolutely. I mean, when you see these really running athletes, you know, going fast in the first 2-3 kilometers, coming maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds ahead. They don't have
You can't blame them, right? People tend to do what their specialty is. So runners tend to just run. They don't want to do pull-ups and rope climbs and barbed wire crawls.
As soon as you work on these abilities, then you're losing a little bit the speed as well. So this is what we were saying yesterday. It's Spartan is a body alchemy. You know, you have to find the right power on the upper part. You have the right balance to have the right speed. You need to have the right endurance, and this is really ticking
all the boxes.
Very details on your body.
I don't know if we talked about it all, but I was with a Spartan professor here, and we spent some time and. He said that the amazing thing about the Spartans was they focused on the structure first, the human body, and all its capacity, not just bicep curls and not just running, but how do they build the perfect structure?
Talk of nutrition in the same way, you know, when all the pieces work together.
So we got some running on the rocks here.
This is really technical stuff, and what's tough about that is when it comes at the late stage of this very, very long beast. Now, Susanna is still on the sandbag carry, and she's not going slowly. So it just gives you some idea of the challenge of that particular obstacle, and this is really going to create some separation between the first, second, and third place athletes. John Albin is
We will have some discussion if it's better to have 2 sandbags carry or a long one sandbag carry.
Why not combine both of those data points?
I was almost sure that you were saying that. You know? I can do question and answers. Yeah. Now, John Albon is going back to the finish line now. He knows perfectly this race because this is the third time he's doing this finish, but he still have the spear throw, the rope climb, the Hercules hoist, the memory code that he missed yesterday on the super. So still some things to happen, but he seems to be in great shape, and he has sometimes
his technique is absolutely fine. See those high knees he's using here. He doesn't have any apparent tiredness in the legs, at least from what we can see. He's able to lift his knees and move very efficiently through the water. He knows the lines. He's been through this river before.
So Richard Hynek is now on second position with 1 minute 30 in front of Albert Soler third. It seems that the podium is clear now, but we never know. I mean, Peter Ziska is maybe 4 minutes behind Albert.
Even if Albon were to miss the next spear throw, it would take him, worst case, 90 seconds to do 30 burpees.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to be difficult to close that gap.
Well, okay. So the spear throw, yes. There's the memory control as well. So I don't know. I think there's still be a fight here. Definitely, I think there's a potential for John to give up that first place spot, at least in the beast.
Absolutely.
Did you release any of the piranha, Olivier?
by the way, I know piranha very well because I lived in Guyana during 1 year. When I was younger, of course, but they are not that eating you or whatever, you know.
They're not that dangerous.
She got the alligators.
Yeah, we need alligators next time.
By the way, we have a new. You told me we have a new obstacle.
Yeah, well, a new technique for navigating the obstacle. I named it. I'm gonna remember this. There's John Albon going for that same technique he used yesterday. It's kind of like the side-by-side crawls. Occasionally, he'll go into a roll. There it is. There, you can go into a roll on one side of your body and then switch over and roll on the other side, or you can do what he's doing, and it's kind of like a shuffle with the hands and knees, and then into a roll. You can see how quickly and efficiently he's moving under the barbed wire,
and you can see a lot of people, a lot of spectators around the course. That's
just awesome.
That's the beauty to be in the middle of a city, you know. I think Joe, you experienced that in Morzine as well, in the European Championship.
Yeah, even
that changed the flavor.
Even in the last half hour when I left you guys, I walked down the center of the street, which he's going to be running through, and I thought, wow, this really has a world championship feel. But
I think you say something positive to me today.
That was positive. Yeah. It felt like a true sporting event, right?
Absolutely.
People are sitting out at the cafes and they're waiting for your winner to come through.
Exactly. And this is why we did this target start system and process to have the winner of the Trifecta global ranking crossing the finish line first.
Yeah, this is an awesome format. I love that. I love that, and seeing that for the first time in Spartan. You see John had no problem on the rope climb. 3 grabs. He uses a sort of a double foot grab technique, and he has no problem also with the Herc hoist.
Susanna finally finised the long
Nicole
carry.
Check out Nicole's face. Is she smiling? Yep, pretty much.
Nicole, she's second. She took on Janka some kilometers ago. So the podium at the moment in the woman race is Susanna Kokumova, Nicole Miracle, and Janka
Popova. From Czech. Now, Joe, I think we were talking about that yesterday, or maybe it was someone else mentioned it to me. Frowning and straining uses a lot more muscles in your face than a smile. So,
no, there's no doubt about it. You got to fake that smile, and that's what I'm doing right now as I see John getting closer to the finish line. I'm faking a smile, knowing that my bank account is about to be $1 million.
You should drink some mountain tea.
The mountain tea would not help.
You.
The mountain tea would not help in this instance. I read the back. Doesn't say anything about recovering from $1 million loss.
Christmas is going to be lean at the DeSena household this year.
No, I told them we're doing celery. Everybody gets celery.
So Spartan is on sale now.
Kids. Santa's in trouble this year. There's Susanna making her way through the olive groves around the city of Sparta. She is just using that strength as a runner. With her experience as a Nordic skier, she's kind of used to being on the move for a very long time.
Yeah,
so the beast
no doubt
suits her.
that she's running to the victory today.
Yeah, the beast really suits her. And you can look at this. You know what I love about this footage? You can see that the local kids of Sparta lining the trails.
I was attacked by 6 of them yesterday. And they had shirts off. And I thought to myself, wow, these are like the original Spartan kids that would go into the agoge. Yeah. One of them actually grabbed my kettlebell and tried to steal it and started running with it. And I thought, wow, I want to adopt this kid. I don't know who he is. But they're tough little kids here.
It's kind of seems to be built into the
barefoot.
DNA. Love it.
Right?
Yeah. Built into the grab the kettlebell and run off.
Yeah.
Right.
You know that a Greek guy yesterday did the full sprint race barefoot.
I love it. I love it.
And indeed,
one of the soldiers, you know, he did it with all the equipment and so on.
Unbelievable. He came up to me as well and he wanted to know his finish time. Yeah. And you know, we've been using the old translator to figure it out. He was in great spirits. Really, really tough people from this region, and why wouldn't it be? The people of Sparta were arguably the toughest in the world, toughest in history.
And they've got to be tough now with this economy. There's a tough economy right now. Oh, she's walking.
Yeah, she's just feeling a little bit of strain. She's pulling out some nutrition from her pouch there after doing the sled pull. Albert Soleil, I hope that he can make up some ground because he's just done so well. He's got such a great personality, and it'd be a shame to see him drop more minutes here.
Okay, that you can see here the timing at the sled, but we have new timing as well at the tunnel, at the entry of the tunnel. Jonathan was 6 minutes ahead of Richard Inek, who is losing time on Albert Soleil. So maybe we can have a good finish between Richard and Albert for the second place over our Trifecta ranking.
Susanna takes a little bit of nutrition and water there. What have you noticed about John Albin? Didn't stop once to drink, eat, breathe.
No, I mean, that's the difference between when you want success as bad as you want to breathe, right? You're going to get it. And so these athletes, although these are arguably the best in the world, when you're going for it, there's no time for. I mean, you look at marathon runners; they're running right by, grabbing that water, dousing it in their mouth, and continuing on.
Yeah, and if some lands in there, then it's kind of a bonus, isn't it? Yeah. Susanna has got. She was on the sled pull there, so she'd be 6 kilometers from the finish. She looks very strong. She doesn't seem to be showing too much fatigue. There's your timing you were talking about, Olivier.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the last one we have. So you can see that. Those are the timing of the race, you know, of the beast race. Those are not the cumulative times. So that means that Jonathan Albon is getting again 6 minutes
just under 6
on
minutes.
Richard just on the beast race. So he's far ahead for the Trifecta ranking, and he has like 6 or 7 minutes in the cumulative time. So that leaves him like missing 2 or 3 obstacles anyway and doing maybe 60 or 90.
Now's the time, Joe. Now's the time to start.
I'm sorry, Joe. I just want to really.
Now's the time to start influencing change if you can.
Yeah.
Z-wall coming up.
Z-wall should not be a big issue here.
You can see how John has his feet facing in the same direction. It makes it a lot easier for him to move nimbly across the Z-wall. This is a great obstacle, a great thing to practice if you've got a little rock climbing wall or something at home where you can practice your grip strength. You'll be so much better at the Z-wall. Just really light on his feet. This is not going to be a problem for John.
Taking his time, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, a fall, just a silly fall off that would be a real error, a real shame. So he's not going to worry about taking time to make sure he taps that bell. Susanna's comfortably also in the lead. Nicole and Janka is the interesting battle that's going on right now, Olivier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, only 2 minutes between the two of them. Janka is maybe 1 minute behind Nicole, but we know that Nicole yesterday on the sprint and super, she missed 2 or 3 obstacles on the same, like the spear throw. She missed also the multi-rig, and we have another twister today. So let's see. I think Janka is very, very good on obstacles, so she has really the chance to take on Nicole before the end of the race.
There's Nicole right now on the epic sandbag carriage. It's just dropped off.
She was running with Thibaut Jean. Thibaut Jean was. We were expecting a better race from him today. Maybe arriving in the first 5.
Thibaut's also very young, you know, and so that's sometimes you see with younger athletes in this sport, you don't see the same amount of consistency that you would with someone like John. But Thibaut's great talent, and you know, winning the Team European title this year, of course, a great highlight on his racing resume.
So descent to Sparta and going to the Atlas Carry and the inverted wall before the long tunnel, this 500 meters tunnel. Not completely black, but slightly lighting to not make it too dangerous.
Half a kilometer is a pretty long time to be inside a tunnel. So you can see why that's a pretty interesting mystery obstacle. John Albin's now putting the accelerator down. He's picked up the pace by about 20%. This is good, easy trail running for him. Hard pack trails around the village. I think that
he knows how close he is. He can taste it. You know, they used to take mice and run them through a maze, and what they found was the mice actually speed up as they get closer to the cheese. So he's just interesting. He's getting closer to the cheese here.
Expensive cheese.
It's expensive cheese. This is not your ordinary American.
Look at that. He was trying to.
Cheddar.
Here we go. Here we go, Olivier.
Yeah.
He nailed it. And he nailed it super quick.
Why are you guys happy? I don't understand.
We're trying to.
I don't understand the excitement.
We're bipartisan broadcasters.
And back on Albert Solé. Albert Solé with third place at the moment, chasing the second place on Richard Heineck.
Do you notice, guys, how much slower it is for him to move under the barbed wire crawl on hands and knees there, Albert Solé? I'm very impressed by John Albin's speed underneath the barbed wire.
Yeah.
This is Albert Solé now on the rope climb. Now, he's using a slightly different technique to John Albin. He used 4 grabs. John Albin got up there in 3, so his rope time climb was a little bit slower than John Albin. And these are the things that just add up over such a long race distance, and that's why John is able to make those gains each time he comes to an obstacle in his time differential.
Where does it look like his finish time will be?
Where are we tracking right now? John is just
245 maybe.
Come through the memory control, so he's at 26.5 kilometers. He's only got 1 kilometer left.
Yeah.
We can hear behind us that John is almost coming to the finish line because the sound.
Can our producer please cut to a shot of us here? Joe has just kind of had a very interesting look on his face. Maybe we can't see it, or maybe we will, but.
Okay, John,
I gotta go out there, and I'm gonna see if I could trip him. I'll see you guys
Joe, thanks for being with us.
If you see him fall into the fire, I have no idea what happened.
Maybe take some spear with you.
Joe DeSena, CEO and founder of Spartan, ladies and gentlemen, very upset that he may have to pay out $1 million when John Albin takes the win here in Sparta, if he is able to, after this, win in Iceland on December the 8th, Joe.
Yeah, you still have to figure out what he can do till that time too.
Right.
Not making it.
Right. The atmosphere here is incredible. It's starting to really hype up. The streets are pumping with local people and, of course, all the other competitors. John is on the multi-rig right now, and he is getting very, very close.
Yeah, very, very easy for him. I mean, we saw him several times during this weekend on the multi-rig, on the twister, and this is really something. He has very good abilities and very good easy technique to do that.
I just love watching him on the multi-rig. He's just so good.
Yeah, it's very nice to see that. No?
It's beautiful. And I love the way he just casually looks at his hand there. He probably ripped half the skin off grabbing onto the rope there. But just his personality is, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm fine. Yeah. Very, very, very sort of... all you British Spartan fans, you guys are very good at sort of just, it's okay, a little bit understated. No worries on the balance beam as he comes to hook around.
This twister was not on the sprint and super race yesterday, so it's twister, ropes, and twister.
Wow, this is
only for the beast.
This is a little bit of extra pain. He's got to transition from the handhold to the rope. That's extremely difficult. What you're seeing right now is he's making it look really easy.
So easy for him, but yeah, as you said, it's very, very nice to look at this. How it's done.
It's just textbook. This is history in the making, and it's also just so entertaining to watch an athlete of his ability navigating such difficult obstacles with such ease.
So we can, of course, I mean, we can send out John Albon. Really, congratulations. I mean, it was a perfect weekend for him. Even we had he had some issues on the super yesterday, but today it's just you just make all the clocks on time.
Yeah, look, yeah, exactly. He dialed it right in, and as he approaches the stairway to Sparta and makes his way up and over that obstacle, John has done pretty much what John should do with an athlete of his position, and stamped his authority on this race. He's come out and just put a huge lead on everybody else. He's having a little bit of a chat to one of our camera operators there. He's looking at there, turns to the camera, and he says,
"That's really nice."
Yeah,
nice smile.
That's
look,
awesome.
Look at this finish line. A lot of people and.
John Albon, ladies and gentlemen, crossing the fire jump, spins around. Thanks, everybody else.
Congratulations, John.
Through the finish tape. He is the Spartan Trifecta World Champion of 2018. What an awesome 3 races by John Albon.
One title as a world champion in Tahoe, one title as a world champion here in Sparta.
Now,
we are getting close to the history.
We're getting close to history if John can take on the Iceland environment at the Ultra World Championship on December 8th. But the only thing on his mind right now, I can guarantee it, is how good he feels to be standing at that finish line as the champion.
Absolutely, and we have the full picture here. Look, we have the soldiers, we have the olive crown on his head.
Right.
This is Sparta.
This definitely is Sparta, and this course is no joke. That was a very, very tough course, over 27 kilometers long, 27.4 to be exact, and 48 obstacles.
2 hours 30 or 40, 2 hours 40, something like this. We wait for his final time, but
so basically, you're looking at 33 minutes longer than his world championship finish time at Tahoe. So
absolutely.
If that gives you some idea of the difficulty of this course, an extra half an hour on your feet when you're moving at that speed and intensity can be a game changer, can knock a lot of people out. You see John just having a chat to the local media crews here in Sparta. There's a lot of smiles all around, John.
And you are almost 2,000 people all together watching this live all over the world. So I hope Americans, I hope Europeans, I hope people from Asia and Middle East can see and can watch at this beautiful victory of John Albon, this beautiful event. And I hope that everybody will understand the importance to have this Trifecta World Championship in the Spartan world, I would say.
Exactly. And, the other thing is I just hope that everybody's enjoyed it. And it's what an awesome community that gathers around this race. We've seen such a great atmosphere at the Trifecta World Championship this weekend. And it just shows that what a thing this sport is, and what a change it makes to people's lives. Everybody of all sorts of abilities this weekend showing up to race at the Trifecta World Championship in Sparta, Greece. John Albon taking on a little water. He seems pretty relaxed. He hasn't sat down. He's still on his feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're waiting for the second place male elite to come in now.
Yeah, I hope that the video, the image, we will be back on Albert Soler and Richard Ivek battle, because they were very close one to each other. Remember that yesterday, Albert started this morning with 1 minute in front of Richard, and Richard now is 1 minute in front of Albert. So that means it took 2 minutes faster on the beast today. But it was we saw that Richard was not so well, and slowing his pace. So let's see if Albert can make it.
There's a
back on
on Richard, and there's an interesting image. Sort of the old meets the new there, being interviewed by the Spartan warrior at the finish line near the step repeat. We'll see if we can get John on air with us in just a few moments and talk to him.
Yeah, definitely we'll get the 3 first men and 3 first women of the World Trifecta ranking here with us.
Fantastic.
For interviews. That's
so stay with us, because we've got still a battle on our hands. We haven't seen the elite female winner come across the finish line yet. Zuzana Kokomova, she still has a few kilometers to go in front of her, and then the battle that is taking place between second and third place, Albert Soleil and Richard Hynek. Richard Hynek overtook Albert Soleil earlier on in the race, and we saw at the Atlas carry that he was really hurting Richard Hynek. He was gripping that thing for dear life. He had his head down. He was staring at his feet. And I think he's giving it everything he can. There's Joe DeSena, who's just been with us on air. He's congratulating John Albin. He's got a bit of a yeah. I would love to
hear what he said.
Right? Yeah. We'll get some of that oil, but look at that. That's the legitimate thing right there. A lot of respect between these two men. Joe DeSena, the CEO and founder of Spartan. He's the originator of all of this, and recognized that the Spartans had a lot to offer in their teachings, and he incorporated into the sport we have now. This is Richard Hynek.
Yes, we are back on the course now. Richard, that's just maybe past the...
What's happening here? This is Albert Soleil, and he shrugged. He shrugged, and he's not certain. He said, "I can't see it there." One of our officials talking to him.
What's happening with Albert now?
There's some confusion going on. I think perhaps he might have called out a certain sequence, and
that's not good. This is not good.
Called out a certain sequence. Maybe it didn't match what was on the pages. There might be an officiating rule coming in. There's plenty of Spartan officials standing around and discussing this. Very, very tense scenes at the memory test, which is the real make or break for second and third place.
Is Richard in front of him, or is Richard behind?
He's burping. He's burping. He's shrugged his hands. He's looked over at the referee and he said, "What the hell?" As he goes into his burpees. He's not happy, Olivier. Something's gone down, and we can't quite tell without...
Did he do the same than John yesterday? Did he not look at the right line? But this will not change anything anyway, because Richard was in front of him.
Richard's in front of him. He's done a double roll over the top of the A-frame cargo, and he's making his way along the main street of Sparta. He's picked up a little bit of pep in his step now that he's coming to the finish.
If Richard is passing all the obstacles clean, that will not will have changed anything. But if he's missing one of those, maybe this story can be like a game changer.
This is an incredible scene to watch here. This is Albert Soleil, the third place male elite competitor, burping at the memory test as his opponent, Richard Hynek, who was in second place, who was the man he wanted to catch, is making his way very, very close to the finish line. There goes Albert Soleil. He's not happy. Again, another shrug, and
absolutely,
really deflating.
And then we have the two two last obstacles.
This is the multi-rig that Richard Hynek
and then we have the twister. Now. So it's two important obstacles that can be like burpee,
like a burpee maker.
Burpee maker, absolutely.
He's no problem. He chooses to skip.
He's tired, but he still have the technique and enough power to do that. Not a problem.
He's
very good.
He's a champion, and he doesn't have a problem with the multi-rig. He makes.
So Richard apparently will be like 8 minutes behind John on this race. So that means altogether Trifecta ranking, global Trifecta ranking will be around 11 minutes behind.
Here is Richard Heineck on the balance beams. These are a little bit different to the one you saw early in the race, which Albert Soleil attacked very, very fast. That was a lot higher off the ground. But that doesn't mean that that's easier. It's just a different sort of obstacle. This is Heineck now coming up to the twister, twister multi-twister.
Richard is not really taking time to prepare whatever. I mean, he looks like very secure.
Yeah,
he knows that Albert is behind him, so he does not want to lose time, but he feels confident and powerful enough to pass easy this obstacle.
Yeah,
look at this. Is less easy than John for sure, but maybe he's just want to secure.
Yeah, I mean, he's also very, very tired. You saw how tired his arms were on the, he even grabs the bell. And I think actually at the end there, his arms were so tired that he may have been feeling like he was going to drop off on that last twister handle, but he grabbed the bell and no problem tapped it there. But, you know, Richard Heineck has been really tired. He put everything out on the course today. This is awesome to see.
Yeah, he is the surprise of the weekend. And we did not really put him even on stage. I mean, on the ceremony, opening ceremony,
right?
And
he wasn't a main feature of the Parade of Nations on Friday night here in Sparta.
He is, as you said, he's young and maybe he's a new face of Spartan. You know, we have now to count on him and to put him on the list of the favorites.
You'll certainly be seeing his face around a lot more now that he's managed to get second place at the Trifecta World Championship. This is Albert Soleil now on the multi-rig, lost a whole bunch of time having to burpee at the memory test.
Albert just passed the A-frame just before this obstacle 4 minutes after Richard. So I think the story of the memory code is not changing anything.
Right. Yeah, no, it doesn't change anything. But you know, if anything, though, it's just an impact on him mentally. You know, he'll want to have had a burpee-free race, and
we're going to try to get some information about this. This is important to know.
Now, look at that! What an incredible scene! The medal being put around his neck. He's almost in tears, on hands and knees. He just can't believe what an awesome race he's had. He is absolutely spent.
Absolutely. But this is what we want to see. I mean, to have the athletes giving the best of themselves. They have to be like this after the finish line. You know, if you want to be on the podium, you have to give everything what you have. Congratulations to Richard Heineck from Czech Republic.
That is an awesome scene at the finish line there, and that's really just inspirational for anyone watching how much effort these guys and girls put into their racing, you know, to the point where once you cross the finish line, everything was left on the course and there's nothing left.
So we have our podium for the Trifecta World Championship global ranking. First, John Albon from UK. Second, Richard Heineck from Czech Republic, and third, Albert Soleil Castells from Spain.
Let's not take anything away from Albert.
This is not official results, okay? Because we still have. I mean, we did not see all the course in the live. We did not see if everything was done correctly, and maybe there is some penalties or whatever. But at least from what we can see here,
unofficial result is
unofficial results. But anyway, that was a really, really good race from those three guys, and a very good battle between the three distances.
The burpees that he did will be reviewed, of course, at the memory test. That's just the procedure that happens as part of this sport. So the officiating team will be looking at the video. But look, what I was going to say before is let's not take anything away from Albert Soleil. He has had an awesome weekend. He's an absolute champion. He has raced really, really well. And this man you're seeing on your screen right now, heading towards the finish line, is a real star of Spartan. Albert Soleil coming into the finish line, third place, male elite at the Trifecta World Championship in Sparta, Greece, 2018. Over the fire,
great athletes, great performance this year, all along races in Europe, in the European Championship, everything. So he deserved this third place, and he has to be very proud of him because that was a long weekend, tough races, and that's a very, very good results for him anyway. So he has to be. He won the Super yesterday.
He finished second place at the sprint and third place at the beast. So he was always on the podium, on the regular results and so on. So really congratulations to those three athletes.
Look at this, John Albin having a chat to Richard Heineck, the second place male elite. And then here's Albert Soleil going in to talk to the team at the finish line. Albert's just such a great guy. He's really lovely. He's just got a really calm personality. Really, really good. Now here's Susanna as she uses the roll technique to go under the barbed wire.
Yeah,
nice.
You can be a little bit dizzy doing that.
You bet.
It's not too long, but
see the way she's doing it there. This is what we've seen, 3 different techniques when I've been commenting on this. As we've been watching, John Albin, of course, used the roll and then a sort of a sideways crawl. It was really, really fast. We saw, I think it was Richard Heineck after that, using it was Albert Soleil using a sort of a hands and knees forward crawl, and then Susanna rolling in the same direction. You see a little wobble there. She takes a couple of steps before she gets running. I feel that would have been better for her to switch directions. So you roll on one side, sweep your feet, and then roll on the other. And that way the blood sort of goes in the other direction, other than keeping the washing machine spinning in the same direction. It makes you super dizzy. You can actually almost fall over when you get out of the obstacle. There's Susanna making her way up. 5 grabs the rope on the way up, and she doesn't have a problem with that at all. We get some footage here of Sergey.
Yeah, Sergey,
Russian champ.
Yeah, it seems that he took back at the end of the race because he overpassed Peter. Peter, this guy, we see him now. I mean, right after the sandbag carry, Susanna was overtaking him, So it seems that Peter is a little bit struggling at the moment, and Sergey took the chance to take the 4th place on the final ranking. So very, very close to the podium, but
yeah, super. I mean, it was always going to be that way, Sergey was either going to smash it out and grab, 3rd or 2nd place, or he wouldn't be on the podium. It's kind of sort of all or nothing with him, as we said yesterday. But take nothing away from him either. He's an absolute champion, and he's had a great weekend.
Absolutely, and we just recall that the elite awards. I mean, prize money is going to place 5. So even for Sergey, he will be recording about this prize money today.
5 places deep will be the prize money payment.
This is also something your Spartan wants to do. Is to go deeper and deeper, or larger and larger on the prize money, to have more athletes awarded with the prize money.
That's
also.
Great. It's great. It's just it's something that just encourages more people to come out and compete. It means more people are rewarded for their efforts on course. I think it's a great thing seeing that this year in particular, Spartan paid out more prize money than ever before around the world, and it may be exponentially increased if John Albin takes the $1 million bonus purse by winning Iceland on December 8th.
But $20,000 prize money for this weekend Trifecta World Championship here in Sparta. 10,000 for men, 10,000 for women, of course.
Right.
And we had also like 20,000 in European Championship, and we had around 12,000 per country in the different European countries. So even in Europe, this is also growing and being larger.
It's growing and being bigger and bigger. Yep.
Elite athletes to train and to be more and more professional.
That's right. I was just going to say it. By having that higher prize money, of course, the net result is that athletes can focus much more on being an athlete, and they don't have to try and find supplemental sources of income, which tends to happen when a sport's fairly new. You're seeing people like John Albin, and Susanna able to race Spartan and only do that.
Yeah, we know that
of course, John does a few other events, but
the sports grow step by step. You cannot do everything and come to a high level, elite field and everything and coverage, everything in 3 or 4 years. So this is the most important, is to launch the process and to continue building this sport in this way.
What I'd really like to see in the sport of Spartan is whether I always wonder whether East African runners could adapt their training to be good at Spartan. You know, they're such great runners, and they do train on rocky trails. You know,
we've seen looking at following the athletes particularly in Italy and France from my side, you see that they are improving every year. You know, there are a lot of them are coming from trail running. And at the beginning, first year, they have some difficulties in the European and the World Championship. We know that the Czechs and Slovakians, they are step ahead in Europe. Now we have John Albom, which is from UK, but they have to go one after the other.
Speaking of John Albon, the champion is with us. He's just joined the broadcast area. We'll get some headset on John and get some insights into his race. John, thank you so much for joining us. You look remarkably fresh.
It's often the case after a race. You're feeling like absolute crap out there, and then you come in the stadium and there's all these people, and you get a big burst of adrenaline, and then you feel a lot better afterwards.
You were incredible out there today. You know, we watched the splits as you came across the timing mats, and you were just putting more and more of a lead on the guys behind you. Is that something you were worried about, you know, going in, or did you think that they had they were kind of breathing down your neck, or did you feel pretty comfortable?
Yeah, I knew with the 2 spears and the memory test, there was a chance I could be doing some burpees. So the more time I had in the bag, the better. So I went out hardish, but controlled, and just tried to not screw anything up, and it all went to plan. So pretty happy.
How did you feel how did you think to have your to have your speed with not knowing or not having information from the athletes behind you?
Yeah, it's difficult that way, but then I guess I always look at a race and just try and think, if I try and run it as fast as possible, if I'm going to win, I'm going to win. So that was the plan, and that's what I did. Okay. So I went out there, just ran, tried not to think about the athletes behind me too much, and went around. So
yeah, we saw during the race, Richard was coming back very heavily on you. He was at some point, he was almost 1 minute behind.
Right. Wow.
And then it was like the end of the race was more difficult for him. So at the end of the day, he took out 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it was just after that you were able to really pick up some speed. It was when you were coming through those technical downhill sections from the top of the mountain back down towards the town that you really put on the speed. We noticed at the memory test you spent quite a long time, and you turned back. I noticed you turned back, and you even had a final check.
There was a 2 snake and then a 1 snake, and I had to get those the right way around.
It was a 2 snake and 1 snake.
There was one more. There's one more shield.
Yeah, there was
yesterday.
But I managed to read the number 1 line, so that was the first triumph of the day. And exactly. So, and then I had a little story to go for the first 4 shields, and then the last 3 I just remembered off the bat. So. Yeah, I was pretty happy to do that, because that's obviously what I screwed up on the first race on Saturday. So, what was your technique to try and remember those? What is it? I had some guy with a big smile. So there was a man, and then there was like a shield with like kind of a pattern, which I just saw as being a shield. So it was a man with a shield, and then there was the shield with the arrow pointing up, which is the Spartan one. So I was like, well, he's looking up, and then there was a cow. So I was like, well, the cow jumped over the moon, and then 2 snake, 1 snake, and then a wreath that I wore on my head.
So that is awesome.
And so what do you know? Do you know what means those shields?
I know that is it the different families or the different like segments of the army maybe? Absolutely. Or something? It's very Spartan, and it's the one from the film that we know with the arrow, but there's all these other symbols on the shield. Yeah, so but it's a pretty cool concept.
This one on the movie with the L, which is the lambda,
the owl.
Yeah, it's from Laconia. Laconia is the big area here.
Okay.
Sparta is the main city. And that was not the highest soldier, by the way. That's little stories that you can get in the museum here in Sparta.
It's awesome. I'm going to check that out later on. John, you were looking at your hand a couple of times after you finished obstacles. I think it was your right hand. Was there something?
No, I've still got the hole in it from the sprint, but it's not that bad. And it's always nice to check your hands after obstacles. I've done some races where they can re-tear your hands up, so it's good to have a little check just to see if anything's majorly wrong with them. And everything here was kind of straightforward on the obstacle front with the hanging, so I was happy to get through it all.
You were extremely good at the Atlas carry and the other carries, and one of the things we talked about is
Sergey is now coming fourth place on the beast today, and 4th place on the overall Trifecta ranking of the weekend.
Look, he's
close to the podium.
He's had a good weekend, and we can see Susanna on screen high-fiving the local kids from the villages along the course.
Not too far behind as well.
Yeah, not too far behind. She's doing pretty well. I was just going to say to John that, we were commenting with Joe that, there are some Spartan athletes that are bigger built than you, but you're extremely strong on all the carries. You have no problem. You have a great strength to weight ratio. Is that a big part of your training at the moment?
Not really. I think as long as I can pick the thing up, then it's more about endurance, moving the thing. And for 5 years when I was a kid, I worked in FedEx, so I moved a lot of boxes.
That's pretty good for the